TV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Eight minutes past 9. Good morning. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. My name is Tshidi Madia. In for Clement this week. As I said, good morning to you. Happy Tuesday. How's your morning going? We'd love to know. We also want to know what's on your mind today. I'll tell you what. Patrice Motsepe, yes, he of CAF, he of Sundowns, he of Rainbow Minerals. He's on my mind a heck of a lot. He's on my mind a lot. I see he's being pitted as the ideal next commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Republic. That's why I think about him a lot. Could that potentially be our next president? I keep asking myself, what does this even mean? If you've been paying attention to the media, you keep seeing his name come up. So that's one of the things that's on my mind. His great achievements are being highlighted. They are fantastic. But what does he stand for? I'm not too sure. Should that not be part of the measure? That's the conversation I want to pick your brain about a little bit when we start the show. Of course, we start the show as per usual with the open line. Anything goes. You raise the agenda, you put the issue on the table, and we try and dissect it and discuss that particular issue. Between 10 and 10:30, we look at Action SA's proposed constitutional amendments. They want tighter immigration laws. Between 10:30 and 11, we'll go to the Western Cape High Court. They declared yesterday that the appointment of impeached Judge John Hlophe to the JC was unlawful and invalid. The Judicial Service Commission, if you remember, oversees judicial appointments and discipline. So we'll look at what does that mean and what's the way forward for the Umkhonto weSizwe party as far as the JC is concerned. And like every other Tuesday, we have our usual features. We'll bring you health and wellness as well as the world of work features. In health and wellness, we'll look at the thyroid, while in the world of work we discuss the corporate ladder. Does it matter in 2025? It seems young people are no longer obsessed with the idea of climbing the corporate ladder. All of that and more throughout the next 3 hours. Our lines are open throughout the show. You can call us on 011 883 0702 or send voice notes and WhatsApps on 072 702 1702.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
So I was doing my morning readings today and I bumped into an interesting opinion piece by the News 24 editor-in-chief, Adrian Basson. He wrote a piece on Patrice Motsepe. That's why I keep saying to you, that man, that rich man, is on my mind a lot. So the opinion piece written by Adrian Basson is titled, "We don't need a Messiah, but maybe we need a Motsepe." In it, he pretty much makes a case for Motsepe to take over the ANC and by virtue of that be positioned to possibly take over from President Cyril Ramaphosa. Of course, this opinion piece follows a lot of the reports. If you're paying attention again, as I said, you're starting to see reports about how there's a lobby group in the ANC that's campaigning for the businessman and current CAF, the Confederation of African Football president, to lead the ANC. It's understood politicians, business leaders and professionals are driving this narrative. Of course, all of this is ahead of the ANC 2027 conference. Though the ANC has attempted to keep a lid on it and try not to get people within the party and outside to talk about it, it is very obvious if you follow the ANC, a lot of decisions are being made, a lot of dealings are being made with 2027 in mind, right? So Adrian Basson kind of shares his parts on all of this. The conversation won't go away, but Adrian pretty much says the idea of Motsepe being a contender is good news for the country. He might be the organization's last chance to safeguard it from further decline, so he might be good for the ANC, he says. He says Motsepe's name is synonymous with success. He speaks of how Motsepe's built his wealth, even saying the mining magnate and football federation president is different from BEE millionaires whose contribution to business is attending board meetings. Not my saying, it's Adrian Basson's opinion piece. He then says, of course, the other potential leader that he's looking at, that Basson points out, is possibly the current deputy president of the ANC, Paul Mashatile. It's well known, if you speak to political circles, that Paul Mashatile is eyeing the presidency. News 24, if you pay attention again, covers the DP quite extensively. When he says Patrice is synonymous with success, he says that's not what you associate somebody like Paul Mashatile with. I don't know What do you say? He doesn't write of Paul Mashatile in good light. He recognizes, though, Bason, in his opinion piece, that in the ANC there is a tradition of deputies taking over from the incumbent. It happened with Thabo Mbeki and former President Nelson Mandela. It happened with Mbeki and Zuma. Even despite Mbeki's actions, it happened with Cyril Ramaphosa and Zuma, despite, again, Zuma's actions. So there is that view for some that it doesn't matter what Ramaphosa or those aligned to Ramaphosa want. It's likely, based on tradition and what we've seen in the past, that maybe Paul Mashatile will rise to lead the ANC. But here's my thing in all of this. Doesn't this all sound a little bit like the Roger Jardine Nyana chapter? If you remember before the elections last year, Roger Jardine, a former banker, a former CEO here at Prime Media, suddenly entered the fray. And the view that was there is that this is not a person who rose from the political landscape itself, that this is a person that was being given to the politics of the country by business. And I think that's why Roger Jardine lasted all 5 seconds. That's why Roger Jardine was rejected. So I have a good question about where is this coming from, especially because it speaks to ANC leadership. I'm not sure if Patrice Motsepe is a conversation in the ANC structures and the ANC's branches. There might be big lobby groups, sure, but it'll take a lot of work to try and get that buy-in. We actually also don't know if Patrice Motsepe is interested. For all we know, he could be eyeing FIFA. He could be eyeing FIFA as his next chapter. So there is that question in my head. And I also don't think we know anything about his policy stance or his vision. Yes, he's got this long-standing association with the ANC. I've often seen him at ANC events, even SSTP events, but that's not enough. And he continues to be the person who bankrolls, who supports and donates, rather, let's use the word donate, to the ANC. So I do recognize all of that, but there is that question where people are asking, should the person who's the brother-in-law of the current president be the person we turn to, number one, or the ANC turns to, number one? Secondly, the issue of a wealthy man being the answer. It wasn't the silver bullet. It didn't work. I don't think it worked. When you look at Ramaphosa's presidency, did it work? Because they were peddling a wealthy man, which means no corruption. It means this and that. I don't know. What's your take on this? We don't even know, as I said, whether he's got the appetite for this or if he should be eyeing FIFA, doing more in the footballing world on a global scale. 011-883-0702. That's the number to call in if you want to share your thoughts. Or you can send a WhatsApp or a voice note on 072-702-1702.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Hi, CD. Thanks for a great show. As far as I'm concerned, my line has always been anything but Paul Mashatile. Anything but Paul Mashatile. So I've got no issues with accepting Patrice as our commander-in-chief. But I would never want to see Mashatile sitting on that throne at all. It's not even funny. Thanks, Chaz and Sanctuary.
Morning, CD. That issue of Patrice Motsepe becoming our next president, I've already heard about it from the guys within the ANC, much as I do get into contact with them. But this really shows that indeed the Paul Mashatile is not taken very seriously, because lately now the scandals about him have been revealed just to sideline and finish him off. And then, now it's a family thing. Now Ramaphosa and Motsepe, brothers-in-law, stuff like that. Where are we going with this?
Morning, Tshidi. Hope you are well. I got a little bit confused when you said Motsepe campaigning, or the campaign for Mr. Motsepe is for him to be the president of the country. I don't think it's guaranteed anymore now that you being a president of the ANC, you'll automatically be the president of the country. It's not going to depend with the votes, and the way we've been seeing ANC, the votes have been decreasing each year. So Motsepe may end up being an ANC president, but I'm just not sure if he's going to end up being the president of the country. Secondly, when we're asking about what it stands for, it's so difficult with ANC leaders because I doubt they stand for anything. I really doubt that they stand for anything. We don't vote for them because they stand for something, just popularity.
Thank you so much for that. No, I didn't say that he might be the next president. I said the ANC's president, and by virtue of that, they'll try to position him obviously as a candidate. Part of what Adrian Basson writes is that he believes through Motsepe, the ANC might be able to arrest the decline, saying that he might be the ANC's last chance to safeguard it from further decline. And that's where that conversation comes from, not necessarily my view. There's another interesting one where there's like family. It is an interesting view because, of course, as you know, President Ramaphosa is married to Motsepe's sister, Dr. Tsepo Motsepe. Some of the messages coming through on the WhatsApp line. Hi, Tshidi. Mr. Patrice Motsepe can make the best president. He's rich and intelligent. He'll help our country a lot. That's rich work, guys. Another message, Tshidi. We absolutely cannot have another billionaire being president of this country. Their sole purpose is to further enrich themselves. And I want to get that. And their pals at the expense of ordinary citizens. Mega billionaires should not be anywhere near the seats of government because no radical change will happen. They'll be there to maintain the status quo. That's Lerato in Midrand. And that's the question. And it's not just a South African question, by the way, about the mega rich. Look at the technocrats, right? Not the technocrats, the tech billionaires, rather, in the USA. Doge. Did that work? I speak to people who are part of the State Department in the US, and they're saying to you it's being hollowed out. And part of the reason why that's happening is the relationship between the super rich and the administration. That doesn't necessarily help. WhatsApp's voice notes on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. Another issue I might want you to weigh in on. There's a lot. I see you all on Patrice. I'll come to you guys on Patrice Motsepe and this opinion piece that was put down by Adrian Basson on News 24. I also want you to weigh in on the fuel levy conversation. The EFF is taking this matter to the courts. It's actually being heard this morning in the Western Cape High Court. So tomorrow, though fuel costs should be going down, the price of diesel and petrol should actually be declining. Remember, it's the first Wednesday of the month. But because of Finance Minister Enoch Gondongwana's announcement last week of a fuel levy, we need to factor that in. It's supposed to kick in tomorrow. It will be the first increase in 3 years. The increase should be by about 4%. In petrol, that translates to about 16 cents, and then in diesel, it's about 15 cents a litre. The move, of course, was part of the minister's third attempt at the budget, and it's to make up for doing away with the VAT hike. Remember, they were forced to go to court to deal with that particular issue. They're being forced to go back. So the EFF is stepping in, and it's trying to force government's hand once again via the courts. They are in the court, as I said. The Reds are arguing that the process undertaken is wrong. It wants the court to suspend the decision. We are now hours away from the fuel levy being increased. It wants it to be halted from coming into effect tomorrow. It further says it is regressive tax. It says the minister's decision was irrational, economically harmful, and unlawfully implemented. The EFF says an increase without money, a money bill, could risk the entire national budget being declared invalid. It's a two-part application that they're putting before the courts. The minister himself has asked for the courts to dismiss the matter. It says that that the implementing agent, which is the Department of Minerals and Energy, is not cited in the papers, that he's got no powers in that regard. He was merely pronouncing on an increase. What is your reading of all of that? Mind you, there are organizations like Aucamp that question the merit of the case being put forward by the EFF. What interests me is the lack of outrage about the fuel levy. I haven't heard the outrage as I heard it with the VAT increase. And could it be because the GNU partners are in agreement? I'm not sure. I wanted your take on this and whether or not you're concerned about it and what your reading is on this. It does feel very muted. But I'd also like you to weigh in on the fact that we're having government being forced to reconsider decisions via the courts. They're being forced consistently. That's going to be the new normal via the courts. So please weigh in on that. 011 883 011-883-0702-072702-1702. I'm seeing a lot of your calls. I'm going to go to some of your calls very quickly. I'll start with John and Davidson. Hi.
How are you?
Good morning, John. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to put it straight. Those who are following soccer, and I think you are a little bit a good follower of soccer, you know what's happening. Since Patrice Motsepe entered into the sports, especially soccer, and brought Sundown, even now, people are complaining about even the management. He took all the good coaches out because he's being advised by a white flaming person. In terms, he's the director of the club. Those coaches that were black African and good were expelled for no good reasons. Just imagine if you give him the country. It's going to be money. No, not reality. Not about the poor, not about the. But
John, you must then remember this about Patrice Motsepe. Though he made his money, his wealth, a massive chunk of his wealth is actually committed to many foundations. He does do a lot of charity work. Yeah. Don't take that from him. He doesn't do a lot of philanthropy work. And don't also take away from the fact that he has never removed himself from the leftist organizations, if you may. I used to see him and his brother at SACP events. So you also have that picture. I think it's interesting that you speak about how he handles the soccer fraternity. One can argue that that's decisiveness, and that's what the country needs, isn't it?
You're quite right. You know, I will support Patrice Motsepe if he was a neutral person, not attached to the ANC, which is very corrupt.
All right, thank you.
In the same way, you see Donald Trump. We may hate him. You know, we don't understand why the Americans voted for him. He talks about issues that are dear and close to the American heart.
Okay, John.
The issue of immigration, which in South Africa, the issue of unemployment is attached.
But John, you didn't make Herman Mashaba a president. When you say immigration, that's a different conversation. I'm going to cut you because I want to give other people a chance. That's John out in Davidson. Kustas, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tshidi. Tshidi, Motsepe is bad news. He's the first person I've ever heard telling us that electricity in South Africa was cheap. That was probably 10 years ago. There's that interview, if you remember. This man went on an interview and said electricity is cheap in South Africa. So, guess what happened? Electricity is expensive in South Africa today. But I can tell you the elite, including this government, does not see that. Electricity is key to industrialization. Mama Motsepe is not going to industrialize this country. When I see this IPP program that is run by this government is going to render this country bankrupt because they are investing in projects that do not translate to jobs. And it's a shame because we are sitting at a debt of 400 billion guarantees to the IPP sector with absolutely no sign of jobs. And we are giving them contracts left and right over to Eskom. Eskom, guess what happened? Charges us tariffs. So as long as this government continues this way, we will not see development, industrialization. Motsepe is just a version 2 of Ramaphosa, possibly the worst.
Okay, Kustas. Kustas says, okay, Kustas. Okay. Kustas says possibly the worst version of Ramaphosa. My thing is, when somebody's name is being peddled like this, right, with the opinion pieces, he's the best thing that could happen to us, you actually don't know what he stands for. You don't know his views. You haven't interrogated his views well enough to know if this is what the country requires. James in the Joburg CBD, how are you? Good morning, James.
How are you? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Tshidi, for me, the question is who wants Motsepe? Motsepe is wanted by ANC oligarchs, the rich people, so that they can protect their wealth. I don't think an ordinary person wants Motsepe. Ordinary person wants a competent person, to understand, who's not defined in terms of his wealth, you know. I mean, Tshidi, this argument of Motsepe being pandered, you know, and we pushed through our throat, it's not a new argument. Remember when Ramaphosa came into power?
Oh, your line, James, is not great. Sorry, try that again.
I'm saying, remember when Ramaphosa came into power, we were told that, if the rich person won't steal. Maybe he didn't. But there is still an explanation about Palapala. We don't know what happened there. There's no explanation.
Yeah, James.
So my argument...
Yeah, sorry.
Hello?
So your line is a little bit choppy. So your argument?
No, I'm saying that the argument that a rich person can rescue South Africa is not a new argument. I mean, Ramaphosa is the same person who did that. I mean, you look in America, for instance, Bernie Sanders is fighting, the rich from encroaching government, do you understand? So if people are going to assume power simply because they are rich, I don't see any need for me to vote.
Yeah. Jimmy, your line is better. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much. That's Jimmy the Joburg CBD. That it can't be about the money. Cannot be about somebody's worth that makes them viable, right? To be a great leader. It cannot be. It's got to take a lot more than that. If that was the case, we'd be cruising. We'd be happy. And we're not happy. We complain about so many things about our governance. And we complain about having a president that we feel is not decisive. So I don't know if it is about wealth. I don't believe it is about wealth. But Adrian Basson writing there a very interesting opinion piece about Patrice, that we might not need a messiah, but you might need a Motsepe. Here are more of your voice notes.
Morning, I trust you well. Look, for me, ANC it's a ship sinking. And if Mr. Patrice Motsepe wants to taint his image, he can proceed and join the organization, become its president and that of a country. Only if he wants to taint his image. Anonymous.
Tshidi, the Patrice Motsepe thing and the ANC, nah? I think a faction of the ANC have realized that in the next elections, they will drop way lower than 40%. And I think that group that uses that reality is the one that sees that if they bring someone like Motsepe with integrity, maybe they can claw back above 50%. I think that this is ANC trying to save itself. Obviously, the confusion is, does Motsepe want it or not? And obviously, there will be a group that will be against it.
That's the big question. Does he want it or not? There's somebody wanted to speak about Motsepe's involvement in the ANC branches and events. And as I said, for most of my career, I've consistently seen him. The attachment to the NC's consistently been there. And that's a very important point to make. It's not like he's coming out of nowhere, but I'm also seeing a lot of reviews saying that this is a man who should actually stand on his own. And then that works. But that also actually raises other complications about the conversation of electoral reform, because though it made some progress, it didn't go far enough if you're asking those who are advocating for it. It is 9:30. Bali Dlamini's got your headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. The investigating officer in the case of a man accused of raping and impregnating an 11-year-old girl will be back in the witness stand of the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. During his last appearance, Simon Modise fielded a raft of questions from the man's lawyer, Frick van Rensburg, who attempted to discredit him. City Power will be restoring electricity supply to the River Park community in Alexandra today. The decision was taken after extensive meetings with community leaders as well as ward councillors. Last week, the entity disconnected the entire area following what it described as a violent confrontation with residents during a meter audit operation. And in France, police are investigating a terror-related motive after a man shot and killed his Tunisian neighbour. The shooting came after the suspect posted multiple racist videos on various platforms. According to French media, the suspect called on the French to shoot people of foreign origin in one of his videos posted on social media. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. Amo, the roads today.
Well, at this moment, we still have got delays on the N12 as well as the R24 West between the Edenville Road exit and the Glulies interchange. Please approach with care. Roadworks are taking place along this route, and that's the reason for that queue. There's more roadworks taking place in Kempton Park along the R21 North, right through towards the R25. So if you're heading towards Tembisa, please be on the lookout there. While traveling in Sunninghill, we've got an accident reported. It's on the N1 North, just before the Baklu interchange, is causing a bit of a hold up there. There's also queuing traffic along the M1 North, that's between the Boysons Road exit and Carr Street. Traveling in the China City area, we've got some delays reported along Main Reef Road approaching Crownwood Road. That's due to an accident. Please approach with care. We'll have more updates. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. Majestic handling. A V8 horsepower that is.
This is very annoying. I'm trying to read a car radio advertisement.
Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.coza and let's find what moves you. Cars.coza.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3,247. My financial advisor asked if I was expecting any inheritance. I said, I don't have a trust fund, but I trust that funds will find their way to my bank account. He was not amused.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Get ready, South Africa. The 129th Hollywood Bets Durban July gallops into Hollywood Bets Greyville Racecourse on Saturday, 5th July. It's more than a race. It's the heartbeat of Mzansi. This year's theme, Marvels of Mzansi, celebrates our rich culture, vibrant heritage, and breathtaking beauty. From thrilling horse racing to show-stopping fashion and powerful performances by Zolani Mahola, Lira, Mafiki Zolo, and more. Feel the pulse of a nation in celebration. Tickets are flying fast. Secure yours now at Ticket Pro. The Hollywood Bets Durban July, Africa's greatest horse racing and social event.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is street ahead. Warrior Paints, affordable, lasting, luxury.
Every small business owner knows that you gotta dream big to achieve even bigger. And Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 understands that it takes guts and determination to show up for your customers and expand your business and your bottom line. That's why we're looking for all the SMEs of Gauteng that dare to reinvent, expand, and shake things up. You could win 200,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package to help you chase your small business dreams. So if you're a small business that dares to level up, enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za for Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
9:36, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement Manyathela. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock, and then the midday report will roll in. We are discussing a variety of issues. It is the open line. You set the agenda, as I said. I was asking about the fuel levy earlier on. The EFF is in court fighting the fuel increase that's meant to kick in tomorrow. Part of my considerations, my conversation really is, should we always have government that's compelled to deal with these issues, to reconsider its take on issues in the courts? We saw it happening with the VAT hike not too long ago. We're seeing it with this. And there are questions about whether or not this is the right move and whether or not this matter before the courts will succeed. I want you to take a listen to some of the voice notes that have come through.
It is. Tshidi, look, good morning. I think I can understand the EFF's position because remember, we didn't know this stuff, but now we know and we have seen it, how it plays itself out. Action SA Bosa were misled and stuff like that. And the courts did clarify that position. And right now, a big question to even a layperson like myself is, if the minister introduces this fuel levy hike, how is it different from that? And secondly, how come is that the parliament is yet to vote on a budget, but already the fuel levy is up? Is it that not even unconstitutional on itself? So yeah, but we wait and see. Sfiso.
Thank you so much for that voice notes fee. So I actually have on the line with me Wayne Duvernay, who's also from OUTA, because OUTA, the Organization of Undoing Tax Abuse, has also weighed in on whether or not it thinks the EFF has a case here that is possibly winnable. I see that the EFF spokesperson, Sinawa Tambo, Wayne, good morning to you as you join me. Sinawa Tambo has actually responded to your comments. You spoke to the SABC, and so Sinawa Tambo looks at your views and he says that you make a strange and confusing argument, saying that on the one hand, you argue that the minister has followed all that is required in terms of the money bills in Parliament to increase the general fuel levy, but then in some strange way, you also go on to say that he doesn't need to. Just let's start with your position as OUTA on the fuel levy and the decision by the EFF to fight it in the courts.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Tshidi. So first of all, every year the Minister of Finance tables the budget. In the past, they've had a majority of ANC, and they get it through Parliament through the vote. And they've never had to consult Parliament on should they apply a sin tax on tobacco, on alcohol, should they put the fuel levy up by X amount or not. That's the decision of the finance minister, and it gets passed in Parliament through the majority vote. This year around, there was a difference because things have changed. They couldn't get through budget 1, 2, and they managed to do so in 3, and that includes the 16 cents in the fuel levy. Now, we're not advocating that the fuel levy should go up. In fact, we've been saying for years the minister should stop increasing that fuel levy, and he actually has done so for the last 3 years. It's at about R3.86. And it had increased by 110% over the last decade. So this 16 cents is another 4%. And I guess it's a case of you've got VAT, which you've declined on, and it's the lesser of the two evils is do you put 16 cents on the fuel levy? It'll only give them about 4 billion rand, well short of what they were asking for. So all I was saying is that I don't think the EFF has an argument that they're going to win in court. I think the minister has followed due process on this matter, but let's see what happens. We can't see how they're going to convince the court that the minister hasn't done it properly.
But to motorists, when the conversation will still be, this is unfair, what must happen, what are alternatives? I mean, you are right in saying you're not necessarily advocating for the increase in the levy. There are no other remedies. I mean, I listened to Deputy President Paul Mashatile saying that the ministers looked at all the other avenues and there was no other place but to go this particular direction. From OUTA's perspective.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've been saying for many years now that government should stop coming to the public for tax increases, whether it's company tax, PAYE, VAT, fuel levies. They've done so incessantly for too long now. They should be looking introspectively. They should be cutting their own cloth, tightening their belts, deal with waste, deal with corruption, maladministration, and inefficient systems. And it's sad that fortunately, the new government of national unity has now sent them back to the drawing board, and they're having to go that route with some adjustments to the fuel levy, which again is a last resort, and we would not want that, but they've got those powers. Remember, the fuel levy went up every year for the last, prior to democracy and after democracy, 20, 25 cents every single year. It went from below 2 Rand in 2014 or 2010, 2014 up until 3 Rand 86 cents. It was just getting out of hand. But for 3 years, the minister never increased that levy. We do say that government needs to start reducing the waste, deal with corruption seriously now, and stop coming to us for more money until they get that right, and until they follow the recommendations from the commissioner that said, invest in SARS and they'll go and fetch more uncollected taxes. That's where they should be looking. But they've been lazy. They've been maladministering our finances for far too long, and they should stop any increases. In fact, taxes should go down if they become far more efficient as a government.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to leave it at that. That's Wayne Duvenage from the Organization of Undoing Tax Abuse. Speaking there about that matter that's before the Western Cape High Court today, the EFF is challenging that fuel levy that's meant to increase, that's meant to kick in tomorrow. And he is correct that it's been 3 years of no increase, but to make up for the VAT hike that was dealt with in the courts, the minister is now turning to the fuel levy. The EFF saying actually that's a no-go as well. And it's also tight because it's meant to kick in, tight in terms of time. The constraints are really tight because it's meant to kick in tomorrow. So we'll see how that unfolds. I do know that EWN is following that story, so we'll listen out for that throughout the day. 011-883-0702 for your calls. 072-702-1702. We are also, of course, that opinion piece, speaking about that opinion piece that was penned by Adrian Basson of News 24 about Patrice Motsepe and whether or not that's what the country needs. It says you don't need a messiah. Maybe you need a Motsepe.
It's the same thing, man, with it, like the previous caller has said. If petrol goes up, everything is delivered with petrol. So everything is going to go up. Food is going to go up. Everything is going to go up. In fact, it might be even worse than the 0.5% that was introduced. So I don't know. I don't know how government must get their money or where they must get it from, but it seems they're too desperate. They must just, I don't know, maybe try, let's just leave it, or maybe they must get it somewhere where they can get it once off.
Good morning, my favorite political journalist, Tshidi Madia. I think the ANC must just amend their constitution and allow Ramaphosa to serve for the third time. Thank you very much. Peter Mailamacham from Lesotho.
Peter, a third term. Anyway, I don't think that he can be stopped, by the way, from serving as a party president for a third term. Not the country's, thank goodness. Our country has limitations, and thank goodness for that. I'm seeing a lot of feedback also on Twitter about the Patrice Motsepe question. Somebody actually just posted, I think it's Romano Ramabulana, just posted a picture of Patrice in 1994, saying, but he is a comrade. I'm not saying he's not a comrade. He is a comrade. I'm saying I don't think we have enough of knowledge of what he stands for. And Bazima Shilowa, also once upon a time in the ANC, former premier, says that this is how he takes it. He says he's a sponsored candidate. It'll be up to the ANC to decide, but it will be up to the electorate to decide later. When you find out what he stands for, social and economic policy, health and education, wake me up. I have a few bridges to sell you. Ben in Johannesburg, you also want to weigh in on Patrice Motsepe.
Yes, good morning to you.
Morning.
First of all, I'd love to thank you so much for representing us at the highest stage where you became the presidential spokesperson when the president wasn't one. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Ben. Okay, let's focus
We're indebted
on
to you. No,
Okay,
we're indebted
Ben.
to you in not being embarrassed in that way. But anyway.
Sure.
Number two, Patrice Motsepe does not have a constituency. Now, if you look at how you're supposed to have a constituency, you're supposed to have a heart for the people. You don't have to get about money. It's about how you affiliate with the people. It's how people affiliate with you. The guy does not have that. Number three, Patrice Motsepe is in the project of the white people for the past 30 years. One thing that you have to give to these white people, they cry. 30 years in advance, people don't see it. Until one day, boom, they push their candidates. If you follow most of these financial magazines, they've been pushing him into the spotlight. They've been making him look good so that it goes into the people's sight as a guy that can take this country next heights, but it actually is not.
Ben?
The last point, my dear, the last point.
Okay.
Where white people show love, red flag. Where white people show disdain, that's where you're supposed to go to. The future of this continent is militarily.
Hold on, Ben. The future of the continent is what?
Militarily, meaning like, the people that come from the military, like Traore as an example. People who think like soldiers.
So
People
undemocratic means of assuming power is the future of the continent.
No. Loyalty to the flag. Loyalty to the flag.
Ben, I want you to go back a few parts for me. I heard you saying Now he doesn't have a constituency. I want to maybe unpack that a little bit. Do you realize that Ramaphosa actually also didn't have one per se? That you can actually
Precisely.
manage that through who supports you within the system. And I think that's part of the flag that Adrian Basson himself raises, that Patrice will be accused of trying to buy his way. Motsepe, if indeed he does go ahead, there'll be but you bought your way to power. Like Ramaphosa, we all know about the CR17 bank statements.
Let me ask you, my dear, what has Patrice Motsepe done? We talk about his money going into these organizations whereby they give away money. Where is that money going to? What has it done?
So
Show me a receipt.
his philanthropy,
What has it done?
you want his philanthropy. You're not convinced about the work that he does as far as philanthropy is concerned. You're not even convinced about the work he's done as far as Sundowns is concerned. And hold on, because here I think you got to be fair in your assessment, right? Because even with Sundowns, right, raising the bar as far as the figures and salaries of soccer players, that was attributed to him, was it not? Was that a lie?
The best paying club in South Africa is Kaizer Chiefs.
I don't think so. Abel just laughed. I don't know much about soccer, but
I
Abel
know more about
knows
soccer.
more than me, and he just started laughing. So I don't know.
Hold on. You can fact check that.
I'm
The
going
most paying
to,
club-
Ben.
The most paying club with salaries in South Africa.
Even if it is the best paid at the moment, I said to you, did he not level the playing field? Did he not raise the bar? Because also you can't take that from him. That would be unfair. If we look back in history, there was a point where his players were the envy of everybody because they were being treated better. I don't think that's a lie.
No, the people are treated better. Trust me, my dear. FIFA even knows that. That's the reason why when FIFA comes to Africa, they don't go to Sundown. They go to Kaizer Chiefs and the Sundown. Globally.
Okay, Ben.
Globally.
Thank you. I'm going to leave that, Ben. I don't know if that's true. I'm going to check that. That's Ben out in Joburg. I'm going to take a quick break. Denzel, I'm going to come to you just now.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m. Is the fear more around, I don't know what to do with them? I don't think I even have the capacity to deal with them, and not even in the position of being a parent, just in general? Or are they actually fearful of the kid itself?
It's a combination of everything that you've highlighted, Rebecca, because there isn't just one way of looking at it. Myself included, I've had to work on this in therapy, and then I kind of realized, okay, I know where this is coming from. It's not that I don't want to be a father or I don't want to be a parent. It's just that children demand so much of something that I personally think I don't have it.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
If your skin's feeling a little flat this winter, bring it back to life with Malachi Organics. From their SPF 40 moisturizing sunscreen that protects even on cloudy days, to the collagen booster serum that firms and smoothens its skincare that really works. The 3-in-1 total maintenance scrub mask cleanses, exfoliates and hydrates, while the youth plumping organic honey mask gives your skin a rich, radiant glow. Shop online at malachiorganics.com or find them on Macro online. Follow at malachi_organics on Instagram for more. That's at malachi_organics on Instagram for more.
Carol, hello.
Hello, Carol. Smart Steve from Momentum here. Can I interest you in a 35% discount on your life insurance premiums?
35% discount. I thought you left your tricks in the past, Steve.
I have, and that's exactly where you should leave your step counting.
But I get a free coffee every week for doing 10,000 steps daily.
Sounds like a long walk to nowhere.
Steve.
Sorry, but with us, you can unlock up to 35% discount without counting steps.
Impressive, Smart Steve.
Just chat with your financial advisor about Momentum Life Returns to save on your life insurance premiums. Momentum, protecting your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matriek mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Dion de Graaf is the CEO at AutoZone. Dion, any company going into business rescue isn't going there because they want to. They're in a tough situation. It must feel pretty good to come out of it.
Absolutely. So the biggest change we had to make was really to come up with a better, more suitable funding structure. That, however, was in many ways some of the easiest part of the change. And making sure that stakeholder alignment was there was really the hard work.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. ABSA is a registered FSP. Your story matters. 702, let's walk the talk.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
9:52, the Clement Manyathela Show, Tshidi Madia in for Clement. We're discussing a variety of issues. It's the open line. We're speaking now about Patrice Motsepe and an opinion piece written by the editor-in-chief at News 24, Adrian Basson, saying we might not need a messiah, but we need a Motsepe. Just before we're going on the break, somebody raised an issue saying that they need receipts. What does Patrice do? I think go visit the Motsepe Foundation website and look at the work that's been done at Sefako Makgato, health sciences, the work in music, in youth, helping with youth programs. There's actually quite a lot that they do in sports as well. I think go do the reading yourself. Let's just not write. I don't want to write off somebody's contributions to society because I don't necessarily agree with the political conversation being put on the table. I think go read yourself. Denzel in Roodepoort, hi.
How are you?
Very good, Denzel. You also wanted to weigh in on Adrian Basson's view that we need a Motsepe?
Yes. So I wanted to say, with people can say one thing and mean another, right? Especially in politics. So the argument that we don't know what Motsepe is, the argument that Motsepe hasn't told us what it stands for is not a great one. I think he's a public figure, he's in the spotlight, his actions are visible to us. So I think we must rather judge him on his past actions. And that's a better indication of his beliefs rather than wanting him to say what he stands for.
I take that. Thank you so much. That's short and sweet. Denzel in Roodepoort saying that we must stop saying we don't know what he stands for, but look at the CV, look at the work that he's done. I say as far as philanthropy is concerned, look at that. He pledges money, he donates to schools, he was involved in COVID, there's SRC programs, there's churches, there's sports, there's music. It cuts across various sectors. So that supposedly is the glimpse. Hear more of your voice notes on this topic.
Good morning, 702 Tshidi. Hi. I don't think Patrice is a bad idea. The problem is the people that will be working with, if not under. I think they want somebody, ANC wants somebody to control, and I mean, like Ramaphosa with his charisma. I think he's a really good president, but the people, the puppeteers are the problem. Patrice might not be a problem, but the people he's going to be working for, if not under, that's the problem. They want him so that they can still have control over this country.
Hi, Tshidi. Let me put a spanner in the works here. For me, I would like the next president to either be a lady or let's say an Indian president. I wouldn't mind. Let's see how that would work out. They would get my vote.
I don't think it would be a good idea for Patrice Motsepe to be the president due to the alignment. Once again, it becomes a system problem that has been designed and created. So it's a total no-no, because we also understand, as much as how Ramaphosa became a billionaire and Motsepe became a billionaire, it is through the alignment. Thank you.
Good morning, Tshidi. The idea of having Patrice Motsepe as the next president, the idea is quite enticing, I must say. However, I wonder if he would succeed if he attempted to actually run for the position, given the current
setup of our politics in the country. We've got a multi-government organization at the moment. So I just wonder if he decides to run for the position, will he get, the right support even from the opposition parties, for him to lead the country. However, given his track record, I don't think we'll have a bad leader in him. So I think it's just a wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see. This is Pete from Tembisa. Thanks, Tshidi.
Thank you so much for that, Pete, and thank you for the WhatsApp. Pete, I actually think that he would be able to get the political parties to work well with him. I think so. I'm not sure. There was a voice note I really liked earlier saying that, we'd like to see a woman or even an Indian president. Those are some of the questions that need to be answered, right? The gender question still has to be answered. And on any given day, me personally, in this country, I'd love to see a woman rise to the top. I say it quite often, and I'll say it again. Thank you so much for all your voice notes and WhatsApps and your calls on this particular topic.
Every time we're on the radio, we're not just talking.
We're turning words into actions.
Actions that change communities.
Actions that make a difference.
And every time you tune into 702, you're not just listening to the radio.
You're in conversation with us.
And your voice matters. You're on a journey with us. And every step we take counts.
It's these steps that not only help us grow as individuals, but also bring us together as a society.
Through the good times and the bad.
Every step gets us closer to the South Africa we want to be.
So keep walking with 702 and let's make this a journey to remember.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Specsavers Audiology, South Africa's largest audiology group, brings you the all-new Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aids. Experience cutting-edge features at a price you can afford. For a limited time only, buy one Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one and get 50% off the second. Visit specsavers.co.za to find your nearest store and ask for Clarity Pro today. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3247. My financial advisor asked if I was expecting any inheritance. I said, I don't have a trust fund, but I trust that funds will find their way to my bank account. He was not amused.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Time for a performance review of my FNB Gold business account. Giving my business up to 30% back in e-bucks at Pick n Pay. No other card does this. It's real money back on expenses. I can even use e-bucks to buy supplies from Take-A-Lot. I must give you a corner office, but you're a bank card.
The FNB Gold business account. No other card works harder for your business because saving you costs is worth it. FNB, help changes everything. TCs and earn rules apply. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider.
Remember, still to come, we're going to discuss that High Court judgment, that decision finding Dr. John Hlophe's appointment to the JSC as unconstitutional and invalid. That conversation will happen following, after the top of the hour, after the bulletin. Here's Nhlamulo with your news updates.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Nhlamulo. We begin with news just in. The Bloemfontein High Court has ruled that the extradition of Morwadi Cholota from the United States was unlawful. The ruling was made a short while ago in the trial within a trial, sparked by an application by the ex-PA of former Free State Premier Ace Magashule. Cholota is amongst several people, including Magashule, accused of corruption in the multi-million rand asbestos tender. She challenged her extradition from the United States after she was hauled back to the country last year to face charges in this matter. We will have more on this story in our upcoming bulletins. We stay in the courts. The investigating officer in the case of a man accused of raping and impregnating an 11-year-old girl will be back in the witness stand of the Boksburg Magistrates Court today. During his last appearance, Simon Modise fielded questions from the defense which attempted to discredit him. He will continue answering questions today as the accused forges ahead with his application for bail. Zolega Kotashe reports.
Warrant Officer Simon Modise is expected to answer more questions before the Boksburg Magistrates Court
as the defense attempts to poke holes in his testimony. It was previously revealed that the 11-year-old was also allegedly raped in 2019 when she was just 6 years old. However, lawyer for the man accused of raping and impregnating the minor in December last year, Frick van Rensburg, questioned the medical examinations conducted on the child.
Why not, sir? Child initially alleged she was raped first time in December 2019 when she was 6 years old. And all of this came out on the 21st of April 2025.
Today's sitting is expected to bring the matter closer to finality in the case which has been marred with delays. Zoleka Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
Deputy Minister for Women and Youth, Steve Litsike, says the department has launched initiatives to help prevent the alarming rise in gender-based violence cases. Litsike was addressing media outside the home of murdered 14-year-old Lukhona Fose. The teen's body was found mutilated in an open veld at the weekend in Roodepoort in the west of Joburg. Police have since launched an investigation into the matter with a specialized task team focused on hate crime and Muti-related crimes. Litsike has called on community members to come forward with any information regarding the murder of the teenager.
And the perpetrators will be found. We must encourage all community members to work together. We want all society, civil society, to come out. We know who did this. The open veld in this area, that's where the lifeless body of Lukhona was found. A 14-year-old.
We shift our focus to this now. City Power will be restoring electricity supply to the River Park community in Alexandra today. That decision was taken after a meeting with community leaders and ward councillors last night. Last week, the entity disconnected the entire area after a violent confrontation with residents during a meter audit operation. City Power says once power is restored, teams will re-enter the area to conduct a full audit of meters. Spokesperson Isaac Mangena says they will disconnect households where meters are found to have been tampered with.
One of the conditions that we have given to the residents, strict conditions that we have given to the residents, that the City Power should enter the area without any disturbance or confrontation from the residents.
He says customers who were previously disconnected will be required to pay a fee as part of the reconnection process.
Customers who were previously disconnected will be required to pay 2,000 towards electricity purchases as part of the reconnection process. It is important to clarify that this amount is not a penalty as per the regulations or a reconnection fee, but rather a minimum charge.
And in France, police are investigating a terror-related motive after a man shot and killed his Tunisian neighbor. The shooting came after the suspect posted multiple racist videos on various platforms. According to French media, the suspect called on the nation to shoot people of foreign origin in one of his videos posted on social media. The shooting came after a Malian man was stabbed to death in April in a mosque also in southern France. Concerns are continuing to grow that France has seen a rise in hate crimes against Muslims. Gold is trading at $3,363.39 an ounce. The rand is at 17.87 to the dollar, 24.16 to the pound, 20.41 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.63 a barrel.
And traffic is still very slow along the M1 North between Boysons Road and the Crown Interchange. While travelling on the M2 West, please be on the lookout for an accident right near the Crown Interchange causing delays. And there's also slow-moving traffic along the N12 as well as the R24 West between Edenville Road and the Gilulis Interchange.
A fine Tuesday in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures peaking at highs of between 20 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, the Bloemfontein High Court has ruled that the extradition of Morwadi Cholota from the United States was unlawful.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702.
We're listening to you. 702.
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes past 10, the Clement Manyathela Show, Tshidi Madia. In for Clement, I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. So I keep getting this back and forth around whether Kaizer Chiefs is the highest paying. I don't know. I'm going to ask the sports people here at EWN to help me with that. I said thank you to somebody. I heard Kaizer Chiefs pays the most. What is it? Sundowns buys the most. I don't know. I'll find out. I'll ask around. I don't know. If you listen to the news bulletins later on, former President Jacob Zuma is going to have an address. I think he'll be speaking of matters of national importance, as I understand it. And I'm pretty sure he'll weigh in on this conversation we're about to have next, where the High Court has ruled that Dr. John Hlophe's appointment to the JSE is unconstitutional and invalid. So we'll speak to three guests about this. We'll speak to the MK party, which has rejected the judgment. We'll speak to the DA, which actually took the matter to the courts. And we'll also hear from Mbekezeli Benjamin, a research and advocacy officer at Judges Matter, to understand what happens next in such a matter. So all of that's coming up next. You can call in and put questions to our guests if that's what you want to do.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
So the Western Cape High Court has declared the National Assembly's appointment of impeached Judge John Hlophe to the Judicial Services Commission as unlawful and invalid. The MK party had nominated its deputy president to serve on the JSC last year. The ruling follows a court challenge by the DA, which argued that Hlophe should not be allowed to serve on the body responsible for overseeing judicial appointments and discipline. Hlophe, of course, was impeached following a process that found him guilty of gross misconduct. I'm joined now on the line by the MK party spokesperson, Ndhlamulo Ndlela. Ndhlamulo, good morning to you. Welcome to Radio 702. I mean, the MKP was quite emphatic coming out and rejecting this particular judgment from the Western Cape High Court.
Good morning to you, Tshidi, and good morning to the listeners. Yes, indeed. We are utterly disappointed and shocked at this outcome. As you know, we stated categorically that all processes within Parliament were followed. And let's also remember that Parliament has got its own rules. When you're a member of Parliament, you're eligible to participate in any committee. You should not be restricted in any way or form. And in this case, Dr. Hlophe was elected to participate in the JSE, at which point now we find, at a later stage, that the DA then decided to take this to courts, and the courts are now overturning decisions that are being made by Parliament.
I mean, I couldn't see it going any other way. When you say you're disappointed and a little bit of shock at the outcome, I couldn't see it going any other way, even though you make an argument that for me is rooted in the clinical aspect of the law. There is the ethic conversation around this, which is what people keep raising, is that the appointment of somebody who had been found to be wanting as far as conduct is concerned, being placed in that position, raises a conflict conversation, raises conflict of sorts. Does that not carry any weight with the MKP?
Well, let's not also forget that, impeachment is a political process which was taken by a vote between the DA and the ANC, and effectively the GNU that you see. So at what point do we draw a line between politics and effectively objectivity and what would be the rule of law? In this case, as we say, the powers and privileges vested within Parliament are drawn from the Constitution. We as lawmakers make laws as that represent and should resonate with the people that voted us in, our electorate. Now, to have courts and judges that are unelected, by the way, reversing those decisions is a serious issue, because lawyers, in the form of judges, because they are advocates, are supposed to interpret the law, not even implement it.
Yeah.
And now what we're finding is that, judges and courts are making decisions at a go, and they are unelected. And let me just bring something that's interesting fact for you, Tshidi. In Mexico, as of 3 days ago, it was announced that moving forward, judges are going to be elected by the public. And this is something that we need to start looking into. Because as it is now, judges are making decisions that now no longer resonate and in actual fact infringe on the rights of the people that voted for us and the likes of a person such as Dr. Hlophe to participate in there. So for courts now to go and reverse decisions that lawmakers make and start overreaching in processes within Parliament becomes a serious problem. Because what that would mean now is that it's going to lead us to what is becoming judicial sovereignty.
I actually want to ask about the next step for the MKP, because if you go to another court, the likelihood from where I'm sitting is that this particular judgment will be maintained. It will remain exactly this. So what would be the remedy then to this issue? Do you accept it and then say it's unfair, we need to focus on changing how the courts function, we need to work on that, or do you continue and go to a higher court?
Well, we are law-abiding citizens and a law-abiding party. So first and foremost, we're going to take this to the highest courts, right up to the Constitutional Court. So we're not going to take this lying down. We also have been, as we stated from day one, as Mkhonto Caesar, as part of our party posture, that we want parliament sovereignty to ensure that the will of the people in terms of decisions that are taken in parliament resonate and are representative of the people's will. And that we should actually do away with this constitutional in its current form. And yes, where there's areas where we believe that the Constitution indeed, for instance, the Bill of Rights, ought to be brought into the mainstream of the framework that we're looking at it from a parliamentary sovereignty perspective, then that should be the case. But we can't have a situation where people who are voting and who want certain policies and certain decisions implemented only for the courts in the form of unelected judges to reverse them.
Before I let you go, I'm just wondering, the constitutional amendment, constitutional review period, the deadline for public input just passed. We do know that Action SA has raised a particular matter around immigration. You raised the issue of how we are at threat of having a judicial sovereignty. Did the MK make contributions? Did you make submissions about what you want to see changed as far as some of our approaches, even to issues like this?
Absolutely. In as far as it even pertains to the issue of land, that we should review Section 25.
You've made those submissions already? That's
including correct, yes, we have made those. It's quite comprehensive, and it's reflective of our policies, our party policy in terms of the people's mandate.
All right, thank you, Nhlamulo. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for your time. That's Nhlamulo Ndlela, who's the spokesperson of the Umkhonto Caesar Party, rejecting the outcome from the Western Cape High Court, saying that they'll go to the highest court in the land to fight this, saying that the impeachment of Dr. John Hlophe, and I think it is a legitimate argument to make, is in and of itself a political process, saying that it was done by GNU partners. I'm going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll hear from the DA spokesperson, Willie Aucamp. The DA is the party that took this matter to court in the first place.
Remember when we were rocking just one bike, dreaming big for our delivery business? Those days. Now we're here with a whole fleet of vans and trucks. That's why it's important to have the right partner in your corner. Of course. We owe to My Way Business Insurance. They've been our go-to for comprehensive cover, protecting our fleet while we deliver excellence. Talk about going from pedal power to horsepower.
Move your business to My Way and get cover for your vans and trucks. Visit myway.co.za for a quote and do business your way. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
To the itchy, watery eyes, the cough, the sniff and sneeze, and the hives, we say unite against allergies.
Once a day, keeping those allergies far away. Sniffs and sneezes out of our way. We're feeling better with Damazin once a day.
For 24-hour allergy relief, speak to your pharmacist about Damazin. Damazin gets it done.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city. From the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union buildings. Choose the 8-kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4-kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk. hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, is where footsteps become footprints.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
1017 Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. So we are discussing the Western Cape High Court finding the appointment of Dr. John Hlophe to the JC as invalid and unlawful. We just spoke to the MKP spokesperson, Nhlamulo Ndlela. They rejected. They say that the impeachment in and of itself was a political process, that in essence, the judges, the courts are undermining the role of lawmakers of parliament. We'll speak in just a second to Willie Aucamp, who's the DA national spokesperson. I'm seeing some of you weighing in on this conversation, so I'm going to play a few of your voice notes on this before I bring Willie in.
Tshidi, just so we're clear on this John Hlophe thing, that gentleman you're talking to says John Hlophe was voted for by the public. It is not true. The public, whoever they are, voted for the MKP. MKP chose Hlophe to be there. So you mustn't make examples like Mexico does this, Mexico does that. Hlophe was not voted for by anybody. The MKP put him there.
That's very, very accurate. Thank you so much for that. They vote for the party. The party makes a decision. What the party owes the JC is a warm body. Who that warm body ought to be is the question mark. Willie joins me now. Willie Aucamp is the DA spokesperson. They took the matter to court. Willie, good morning and welcome to Radio 702. You've kind of seen the outcomes of the Western Cape High Court as a victory for the rule of law and the Constitution. But the MKP, in making an argument, does say that the role of Parliament is thus undermined. I want you to first weigh in on that. I mean, they say that the threat is of a judiciary sovereignty as opposed to our constitutional sovereignty, which is what we are at the moment.
Good morning, Tshidi. Tshidi, if you look at section 1654 of the Constitution, it is very clear that Parliament has got a responsibility to promote the impartiality and the objectivity of courts. I can quickly read it to you to just give the listeners an idea of what I'm saying here. 1654 says organs of state, in other words, it includes Parliament, through legislative and other measures, must assist and protect the courts to ensure the independence, impartiality, dignity, accessibility, and effectiveness of the courts. So if you look at that section, it is clear that Parliament has a duty to protect the courts. And by electing somebody to the Judicial Services Commission that has been impeached, that has been declared unfit to be a judge, surely cannot serve on a committee that must appoint judges and also have disciplinary hearings on judges. It is the same committee that proposed that he must be impeached. So it is definitely not in the interest of justice to have a person with the tainted history like John Hlophe serving on that Judicial Services Commission.
I think the conflict definitely, without question, does arise. And that's a question that I was also asking him with regards to that particular role. Willie, they are saying that they'll fight this. They'll continue to fight this all the way to the highest courts in the land. I often find that instead of using the courts, there should be room, at least I just struggle to find it in our political space, room for conversations around what ought to happen. I don't know if that's something that is a possibility within opposition, to go, here's the situation. There is a conflict around Dr. Hlophe that arises. There's no question. You do have an obligation to give them a position, to give somebody a seat from the MKP, because that is what is guaranteed. They are in Parliament. They were voted for. So all of that is guaranteed. There's no room for conversations to remedy these things through discussions, the whips when they meet to find a way forward. I just find it odd also that we are in this weird stage where every resolution, every issue is resolved via the courts.
Yeah, it's very clear that the MK party will not sit down to negotiate this, and they've made it very clear. When Parliament voted on this last year, we made it very clear from the DA side that we will not accept this and that they can put forward another name. They were not willing to do that. We must also look at what the Constitution says. The MK party is not necessarily entitled to a member there. It says that the Parliament must adjudicate 6 people. 3 out of government and 3 out of the opposition. Now, the opposition is not only MK, they are other parties as well. So they are not necessarily entitled to that, but we said to them at that stage, bring another name forward, a name of a person that has not been impeached, that has not been declared as unfit to be a judge. You cannot have people like that appointing judges. We must protect our judiciary. We must remember, Tshidi, that our government consists of 3 legs. We've got the executive power, which are the ministers and the president. We've got the legislative power that are parliament. And then we've got the judicial power that are the courts. And that is a very important leg of our government. And we must protect the independency thereof. We've also had it that judges said that or potential judges that they will be reluctant to appear in front of the Judicial Services Commission if somebody with the character of Mr. John Hlophe is sitting on that commission. So this is really a win for the independence of the judiciary, and the Democratic Alliance, with the people that assisted us in this court case, are very glad that we've received this judgment, and we are quite sure that they will not succeed on appeal on this.
I'm pretty sure you'll continue to fight it also, just like the MKP, all the way to the highest court in the land. Are there any concerns about the impact on the idea of confidence as well when all of this is unfolding, in terms of how the public perceives all of you as political parties and how you wade and manage through issues like this? Because for me, this is an ethics conversation as well.
Absolutely. And we are taking this on not only on the words of the Constitution, but obviously in the background on the ethics of this. And I believe that South Africans value our Constitution. We've got a very good Constitution that is the highest law of our land, and we've got to protect it with all that we've got. So when the Democratic Alliance are taking issues to court to test the constitutionality thereof, we are firstly making use of another branch of government, which is the judicial arm. But we are showing people out there that we will fight as a Democratic Alliance to uphold the Constitution. And if we lose our Constitution, like MK want us to, we will be set back as a country for ages. So the Democratic Alliance don't see this as fighting. We see this as using the tools at our availability to make sure that we uphold the Constitution and fight for everybody's right to live in a constitutional democracy.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to leave it at that. That's Willie Aucamp, who's the DA national spokesperson, who spoke to Willie Aucamp, as well as Nhlamulo Ndlela from the MKP. Holding on to the line is Mbekezeli Benjamin. I'm going to bring him in just after this voice note.
Good morning, Tshidi. Thanks for all the coverage on the John Hlophe matter. I agree with your previous caller. Nobody voted for John Hlophe. They voted for MKP and those who were well informed enough to check the list of names that were sent to the IEC of those who would be MPs when MKP won its seats. That list did not include John Hlophe. He was added later. He wasn't even on the list that MKP said to the country, these will be your MPs.
All right, thank you so much.
So really, he's very unelected. Furthermore, our judges are appointed, but appointed by the Judicial Services Commission, which includes representatives of Parliament. If Parliament wants to block the appointment of a judge, they're able to do so through their representatives. Thank you. It's David.
All right, thank you so much for that. I do want to give Mbekezeli Benjamin a chance to speak, but Nhlamulo was listening to Willie Aucamp and he wants to give a response. Nhlamulo, please let's keep it brief so I can give Mbekezeli a chance.
No, thank you for that. Look, here, let's start with the following. Powers and privileges of Parliament are drawn from the Constitution. Those rules allowed for Dr. Hlophe to participate in that. But we are aware and we know that, don't forget, Dr. Hlophe wrote a very damning report about the Western Cape High Court itself, where there were a lot of shenanigans there pertaining to certain cases and more so racism that reverberated through all those courts. So it is clear that the last thing they would ever wanted is a person with the insights, 25 to 30 years of experience like Dr. Hlophe, to preside over those interviews. But let's also not mislead South Africans. Dr. Hlophe will be presiding over interviews. He doesn't appoint. Instead, it is the president that appoints. So where would the threat there be if South Africans can have a person such as Dr. Hlophe, who's got the skills, the qualifications to preside, and more so the experience and the insight of how courts and how judges ought to be presiding over the judicial system? So, you know, for there to now create and impressions of Dr. Hlophe off the back of a political process of impeachment. Remember, that was a political decision that was taken. That's what impeachment. That's what led to the impeachment. The GNU partners are the ones that impeached Dr. Hlophe.
Nhlamulo, but the question at hand is about ethics, and I feel like you're not going there, but I don't have the time. I want to give Mbekezeli Benjamin a chance to also weigh in on the argument you've made, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. That's Nhlamulo Ndlela from the MKP. Mbekezeli Benjamin, who's a research and advocacy officer at Judges Matter, I think listened to a little bit of that. Mbekezeli, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702. So Nhlamulo explaining what's happened to Dr. Hlophe. For me, it's about the GNU, it's about the racism in the Western Cape High Court. It's about anything but the question of ethics, the question of conflict that should arise about having somebody who had been found wanting by the JSC serving in that particular body.
Good morning, Tshidi, and good morning to the listeners. You're quite right. That is exactly what the judgment of the Western Cape High Court emphasizes, is that not only the fact of the impeachment is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is why was there an impeachment, the impeachment was based on a finding of gross misconduct. And that gross misconduct was in the nature of Dr. Hlophe interfering with the Constitutional Court in violation of Section 165 of the Constitution. And so the Western Cape High Court in its judgment says that if you look at that fact, and you also look at the fact of what happened after Dr. Hlophe was impeached as a judge, his conduct towards the judiciary, the statements that both himself and the MKP have made in various guises in response to court judgments, that is a factor that should have been considered by the National Assembly when it was taking a decision to designate him as a member of the Judicial Service Commission. Because the Western Cape High Court says, if you look at the power given to the National Assembly in Section 178, subsection 1H, and read it against Section 165, subsection 4 of the Constitution, those two sections make it very clear that the National Assembly has a constitutional responsibility to make sure that when it designates people to the JSC, those people are able to uphold the integrity, independence, and credibility of the judiciary. And the court said Dr. Hlophe is not one of those people.
That is a question that I think we didn't delve into very much. Because I'm going to try and keep you on for a little bit. It's time for me to go to headlines, but I do want to speak to you about a few more things. There are questions coming up from the listeners, even on Twitter, that I'd like you to indulge for us. And there's an issue that Nhlamulo Ndlela raised about judges being appointed directly by the public, speaking about a Mexican example. And I want you to weigh in on that feasibility. It's something that another listener on Twitter asked about. How would this actually work? But I want you to think about all of that and whether or not what's happened undermines the role and the work of Parliament. So we'll answer those questions for you after the headlines. But for now, though, it is literally, yes, it is 10:30. Yes, in Bali, with the headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. A very good morning. It's the breaking news this hour. The National Prosecuting Authority has suffered a massive blow in the asbestos trial. In a judgment in a trial within a trial a short while ago, the court ruled that the extradition of Morwadi Cholota from the US was unlawful and unconstitutional. Cholota, the ex-PA of former Free State Premier Ace Magashule, filed a special plea to the court in April, putting the main trial on pause. She claimed state prosecutors and Hawks investigators based their extradition on falsehoods, intentionally misleading US authorities. The court now says Cholota is a free woman. The EFF heads back to the Western Cape High Court today to challenge Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana on the fuel levy increase. Last week, the party filed papers to block a fuel levy increase announced earlier during Godongwana's tabling of Budget 3.0. The party says it is arguing that the minister was wrong in the process he followed to introduce the levy increase. And Gauteng Finance MEC Lebogang Maile will be presenting a revised provincial budget this morning, making changes to the one he delivered in March. The adjustments come in response to the national budget, which was recently tabled by the finance minister. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
While traveling on the M2 East, we've got an accident reported just near Silver Street. It's causing heavy delays. Please be on the lookout there. The queue is about a 15-minute hold up just as you come out of Hlophe Street. If you are traveling on the M2 West, coming out of the Crown Interchange, expect delays towards Main Reef Road. There's also queuing traffic in the Bedford View area along the N3 North due to an accident right at the Kilulis Interchange, and there's also slow-moving traffic on the R24 West towards the Kilulis Interchange. If you're traveling in the city of Tshwane at this moment, we've got roadworks taking place along the N1 North at the Flying Saucer Interchange. Please be on the lookout for those ones and approach with care. We'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Timber, have you filed your business tax return?
Joe, with My Way Business Insurance, I get My Business Assist, which gives me loads of benefits. They assist in filing my taxes, so no long queues. Plus, I get tender notifications, marketing services, and more to help me elevate my hustle.
They do what?
Yeah, bo. Thanks to My Way, now I have time to focus on the real deal, which is growing my business.
Move to My Way Business Insurance today and get covered to do business your way. Visit myway.co.za for a quote. My Business Assist is a value-added product. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
A bowl of cereal, a glass of orange juice, some flavored yogurt for breakfast. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Now, sign the petition on heala.org. HEALA.org.
Tabo is trying hard to remember a song he heard at the gym. Shame. Thanks to the new Samsung A56, he can give his brain a break. Simply press and hold the home button, tap on the music key symbol, hum or sing the melody, and boom! The Circle to Search AI feature instantly finds the song for you. Now Tabo can have an awesome gym session jamming to the best hits. Galaxy A56. Awesome intelligence is here.
702 and Absa Home Loans are celebrating a year of unlocking home ownership insights. Since June 2024, the Absa Home Ownership Series on the Masterclass with Hlophe has helped you better understand the property game, one smart conversation at a time. This Wednesday, we are diving into the South African property landscape and how you can take part in the property economy. So don't miss the Masterclass with Hlophe this Wednesday only on 702, brought to you by Absa Home Loans. Absa is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. NCRCP 7 T's and C's apply.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
10:34, Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. We are discussing that High Court judgment that found Dr. John Hlophe's appointment to the JSE as unconstitutional and invalid. We are joined on the line by Mbekezeli Benjamin, a research and advocacy officer at Judges Matter, who's helping us understand a few aspects of the particular judgment. I just want him to respond to some of your questions. Mbekezeli, thank you so much for sticking around. So some of the questions that have come through, at least on Twitter for now, Lisedi Mbona says, is it even democracy when the court can nullify a decision by parliament? Doesn't this strip parliament of its sovereignty? The balance and checks arguments, it's a valid one. However, how do you ensure parliament's sovereignty reigns supreme? That's the question, and that's an argument that the MKP is making. That's, as they say, we are under the threat of a judicial sovereignty. How would you weigh in on that one?
So, under apartheid, South Africa did have parliamentary sovereignty. So, courts were not allowed to question decisions by parliament, and that's partly why apartheid lasted for so long. So, in 1994, we rewrote the constitution to say that there must be a balance. There are certain decisions that are at the heart of parliamentary power, and courts are not allowed to interfere with those. And then there are those that are more constitutional decisions that affect not just parliament but other arms of state, such as, for example, the designation of a member of the Judicial Service Commission. And in those decisions, the courts may scrutinize how Parliament takes the decision. So the important thing is not why Parliament is taking the decision, but how. So in this case, the Western Cape High Court emphasized that yes, when you look at when you look at how Parliament selects people to be on the JSC, the first part is a political process, which is a nomination. Political parties are free to nominate anyone, and the courts may not question that aspect. But there's a second aspect where the National Assembly, as a body, as a collective, they must then designate from amongst themselves those people who will align with Section 165 of the Constitution. And because that is a constitutional power, the courts have a duty to make sure that it aligns with the Constitution. In this case, it did not align with the Constitution and it was declared unconstitutional. In future cases, it might be different. We don't know. But the way that our system works, the courts are basically the referees to say this is where you can play, and once you go over this line, it's an offside. This is essentially what happened in this case.
And just very briefly, your last take on the suggestion that Ndlela makes is in Mexico, the public gets to elect judges directly, saying that this is what we want. Mkonza at ZA is asking, are we going to have an election every 3 months? Your views on that one?
Well, elections for judges don't work. The Mexican example is one that came out last year by the new president, Claudia Sheinbaum. She borrowed it from the United States. In fact, in the United States, it's so broken in that 2 months ago, Elon Musk spent $19 million to try and get a judge elected on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, even though that judge was someone who was extremely unpopular, but Elon Musk wanted him elected because he was part of the MAGA movement. So the South African example is actually the gold standard when you look at judicial appointments processes around the world. It balances both the interests of members of parliament. You know, our JSC, half of it is made up of members of parliament, but we also have the other half made up of judges, lawyers. And so it's an inclusive process that is unique in anywhere in the world. So the directly electing judges actually is not good because you have a potential of billionaires buying their own judges, like we saw in the United States with Elon Musk.
Thank you so much, Mbekezeli. I'm going to leave it at that. Mbekezeli Benjamin is a research and advocacy officer at Judges Matter. There's been a lot of reaction to this particular conversation. So let me play a couple of your voice notes.
Good morning to you, Tshidi. This is a blatant attempt by the MK to capture the judiciary. And Jacob Zuma guaranteed is at the forefront of all of this. This must not be allowed. This must definitely not be allowed. We're then going to become a banana republic and lawless. Jeffrey Santon.
On the WhatsApp line, another message says, why is the MK so adamant on having John Hlophe as their nomination? It is an issue of ethics. How can you have an impeached judge as their candidate? How can voters take the MK seriously if they appear to have no ethical conscience? Those are very big questions that the MK needs to answer. Remember to look out for former President Jacob Zuma. He's got a briefing on the state of the nation a little bit later on. I think news also that's been very interesting, if you listen to the EWN updates, is the massive setback for the NPA in the Free State. Judge Philip Losha has ruled that Moradi Cholota, Ismakashule's former PA's extradition from the US was unlawful and unconstitutional. This means she'll not stand trial in that asbestos trial that Magashule and 16 others are facing. So that's another issue that the NPA needs to speak to. But we're going to move on from that conversation to speak to Action SA that wants very key amendments and tighter regulations around immigration.
For more about 702,
go to primemediaplus.com.
All right, we are in conversation now with Action SA. I'm not sure if you saw their statement, I think yesterday. Remember, over the weekend was the deadline to make constitutional inputs, public inputs for the constitutional review of the Constitution that happened. And I do know that Action SA came out saying that actually it's formally submitted proposed amendments to the Constitution. And what they want is to tighten immigration laws. They want to limit the rights of undocumented foreign nationals in the country. You can weigh in on this conversation as well. I'm joined now on the line by Ethel Trollop, Action SA's parliamentary leader. Ethel, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Tshidi. Thanks very much for your time and good morning to your listeners. I have got limited time. I'm in a portfolio committee meeting, but very happy to talk to you.
All right. Thank you so much for making time for us. I'm not going to try not to waste too much of your time. Let's speak about what actually motivated some of the inputs. Before I even ask you what is it exactly that you're looking to change, what was the motivation behind thinking of what needs to change in the country?
Well, Tshidi, the main motivation is that we have a crisis of undocumented or illegal immigration in this country, and it's having a knock-on effect on service delivery and also on the rights of bona fide South African citizens. So it's in light of that we made proposals to make amendments to the preamble of the Constitution and to certain parts of the Bill of Rights.
Let's speak about that preamble. For me, I looked at it and I thought one of the most key things about that preamble is that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And that's an issue that I think Action SA would take, that actually it doesn't believe that it belongs to everybody. Let's speak about what you want to change with the preamble before we look at the Bill of Rights.
All right, thanks very much. So I think the preamble is the where the Constitution begins. It's an introduction to the Constitution. And we believe that the text around South Africa belonging to all who live in it needs to be corrected because there is persistent misinterpretation, which has been used to extend constitutional protections to those residing in the country illegally, Tshidi. And what we are saying is that this is a deliberate misreading of what it actually says, and we are requesting a carefully considered revision to reaffirm the original intent of this principle and prevent its continued misappropriation without undermining the inclusive spirit of the Constitution.
And then with regards to the Bill of Rights, you also want changes to particular areas, housing, healthcare, education. Help us understand why these three specific areas.
Okay, so that's the essence of this constitutional change motivation, because we believe that South Africa belongs to all its bona fide citizens and permanent residents and immigrants that are recognized legally. It doesn't belong to illegal immigrants. And we have between 5 and 10 million illegal immigrants in this country. Nobody really knows how many. It could be more. But it's potentially up to 20% of the total population. Now, those people that are here illegally are allowed to make application to the Bill of Rights where it makes provision for provision of housing or temporary housing accommodation. It also allows them to make application for healthcare. They can go to any clinic in this country. They can give birth in any hospital in this country. And also there was recently a Constitutional Court ruling that they can access schools for their children near where they live. Now, what that means is that essentially it pushes bona fide South African citizens to the back of the queue, and we as Action SA are saying charity begins at home. South African citizens should be at the front of the queue for housing, healthcare, and education, and that it should not be permissible for an illegal immigrant to access those services before a bona fide South African citizen or somebody who is legally in our country. So essentially, the amendments of the Bill of Rights are Section 26, 27, and 29 that deal with the housing, healthcare, and access to education. And we as a party are saying we cannot continue allowing the misappropriation of this noble intent that is stipulated in our preamble to be expropriated by people from foreign countries who come here because their own countries can't create jobs and opportunities for them, and they come to our country and take those jobs and opportunities, and we have one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. We have to start putting South Africans first.
I'm wondering what our listeners make of what Action SA has put on the table. Please feel free to weigh in to share your thoughts on the suggestions that Action SA has put on the table. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702 for voice notes and WhatsApps. They want to tighten the immigration laws. They want to limit the rights of undocumented foreign nationals. They speak about the preamble of the Constitution, worried about how the term, the phrasing, South Africa belongs to all who live in it, has been abused. Ethel, all of this, though, might also be seen as flying against our Ubuntu values. That some of these, the tightening of these measures almost flies against who and what we want to be understood as, particularly as far as international human rights are also concerned, and what we've signed onto and what we've agreed to provide, and the role we've agreed to play, not only in the region, but on the global scale.
Tshidi, I hear you, and as I said in my introduction, that we want to bring about these changes in a language and a presentation that doesn't undermine the inclusive spirit of our Constitution. But let me give you an example. If you or I travel to the United Kingdom, for example, and we fall ill and we do not have travel insurance, we have no right to access the national health insurance. We then have to find money from somewhere, from our own pocket, to access healthcare if we fall ill. But in South Africa, that doesn't prevail. And we're saying South Africans must be put first. That's essentially what we're saying. The other thing is, Tshidi, is that I was asked this morning whether we shouldn't rather be looking at better border control and management. Yes, we should. That does go hand in hand with this problem. But there are already between 5 and 10 million illegal immigrants in this country that are accessing the very rights that are guaranteed in our Constitution through the preamble and the Bill of Rights, and they're accessing those at the expense of bona fide South African citizens.
I know we press for time. I'm going to try to squeeze in two quick ones before I let you go, Ethel. What about the children then born of people who weren't from this country? Because those children being born here, one would argue, what about their rights to access healthcare, education, housing? What is the measures there from Action SA to deal with children of immigrants born in the country?
Well, that's a very good question, because the world over, even recently in the United States, they are reviewing the rights of children born in the United States. We have very strict laws in that regard that prevail. And we're not saying that the laws must be changed about the rights of children born in South Africa. But there's a difference between a child born in South Africa from people who are in South Africa legally, as opposed to people that are in South Africa illegally. And that needs to be scrutinized. And if the law needs to be changed to tighten that up, to put South Africans first, well, so be it.
Yeah, simply put. Before I let you go, last one, I promise. The problem with the sentiments around migration, immigration, undocumented migrants and all of that is that it easily fuels the conversation of xenophobic violence. Those rhetorics are concerning. South Africa has that issue. That is an issue that it's dealt with. Are you not worried as being seen as that? I mean, part of the criticism against Action is saying Mashaba, the leader, has been this is xenophobic language.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that debate was put to bed a long time ago. Herman Mashaba was the first high-profile South African politician who took back hijacked buildings from illegal immigrants who were running their own parallel rental schemes and ruling communities through fear. And then it became the sort of lexicon of all the political parties. Every single political party is talking about illegal immigration in Parliament and in South Africa now. We have not adopted the stance, for example, of Abaha Mbebonke. No, we're not saying everybody must go. We recognize that we live in a global village and that people go where there are opportunities, and we respect that. But it must be done lawfully and legally. And if you slip across the border illegally and you're bringing contraband into this country, or you are committing nefarious activities, why should you then be treated like a citizen who is law-abiding? So we're saying, if you're above the law, you're welcome in this country. And if we know who you are and we have your records, you're welcome to come and contribute to growing our economy and making South Africa a wonderful place. But if you do so surreptitiously below the, or behind, below the radar, then you are unacceptably an illegal immigrant. And there's nothing xenophobic about that. That's simply a matter of law.
Quick one before I let you go. I know I keep saying last one. Quick one. Are you going to be using the relationship you've built with the ANC and the GNU partners to try and further this mission? Because now you actually have a relationship with them and you might be able to get some things passed through. Would you be able to look into working with them along those lines?
Well, I don't know so much about the relationship we have with the GNU. We have taken a position in Parliament that we will be a constructive opposition. We'll oppose where we must, and we'll cooperate where we can. But we will discuss this matter with all the other political parties who have been outspoken about illegal immigration. This is simply about putting South African first. And we're not ashamed of that. We actually propose that South Africans must come first and South Africans must be protected by their constitution. So if the constitution has to be changed in order to do that, well, then we must change the constitution.
All right, thank you so much. That's Ethel Trollip. Ethel is the SA parliamentary leader for Action SA is a parliamentary leader, speaking to us there about the proposals that they've put through as far as constitutional amendments are concerned. They're worried about two key factors. They speak about the preamble of the constitution, and that's where that beautiful line, South Africa belongs to all who live in it, is an issue for them. They say that it hasn't helped us at all. They also raise the issue of the Bill of Rights in terms of provisions relating to housing, healthcare, and education. What are your thoughts? I'll play your voice notes on WhatsApps. Lots of reaction to the story in just a bit.
It was fast, easy, and he gave me the best quote. My savings is 644 rand. Come join our insurance and save some money.
Nice one, Lebo. Saving 644 Rand a month on your 2019 Mazda CX-3 would also make you so happy you might drop a beat. Outsurance clients know what it feels like to be on the winning side. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Switch and save today. Outsurance is always looking for ways to save you money. They are also committed to settling valid claims fairly and quickly. No hassles.
You know your claim is going to be taken care of and you've got support along the journey.
SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct to give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Infrastructure connects economies, finance powers the vision. This week on 702 R&B Africa Focus explores how financial solutions are enabling the infrastructure that drives real economic change. Join award-winning journalist Crystal Audison as she sheds light on the financial innovation and major infrastructure projects that are reshaping the future of African cities, industries, and trade routes. That's R&B Africa Focus on 702 Drive with John Perlman this Thursday. R&B is a proud sponsor of B20 and a leading African corporate and investment bank.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
All right, as I was saying, lots of reaction coming into that proposal by Action SA. They want to see amendments being made to the Constitution. Two key areas that they've raised issues with, the preamble as well as aspects of the Bill of Rights. Here's some of your thoughts.
Immigration. Hi, Tshidi Tabo here in Tshwane. I like what Action SA is proposing, and I think it's very important that we in South Africa support this. Hopefully the parliamentarians will do the same in spite of their political persuasions. Now, you've seen on the internet whereby the nurses in another hospital, they wouldn't help foreign nationals before they help South Africans. And I think that's the spirit of how the constitution should supposed to be. South Africa first, before others.
South Africa here at City, when we fight for what is ours, rightfully ours, as citizens of this country, we are labeled names. In Bramfisher here, there are squatter camps that just came in now. People are taking land. All over, in Durban Deep, in Bramfisher, all over. You go to those places today, this is full of foreign people who are undocumented. In the clinics here, when we're taking our children for immunization, you find these people with their children in front of the queue. They are going to say these things are finished, but our children are not immunized. No. When we were fighting for our children that are born in this country for this immunization, we are going to be called xenophobia. This country is going to come to carcass one day. Case in Kahis.
Hi, Didi. I totally agree and in support of Action SA's proposal to Parliament. Why? I've got literally my sister at home is not working. I've got a brother who's in Mandeni, is also not working. I've got about 3 cousins that stay with my sister back in KZN. They're not working. I've got a cousin who stays with me currently, finding it very difficult to find work. So that's my situation, and I'm supporting all of those guys. And when you walk into restaurants, etc., and it's painful to see that there are illegal foreigners that are occupying this job.
I said this is Cyril Tutsumani. City, I agree 150% with Hlophe about the fact that our constitution, is giving away rights, to everyone else who comes here willy-nilly, at the expense of South Africans. Really, I hope they win this thing, and this country, is brought back to normality.
Thank you so much for those voice notes. The thing about the hospital, I think somebody's saying, they must treat South Africans first. I don't know about that one for me. Doctors take that Hippocratic oath, and so you must be able to service everyone. So I always struggle with the issue around servicing people and hospitals personally. But I also think that the beauty of our constitution is that it is a living document. So if this position or this view doesn't work, you can do the work to move it towards what you want it to be. I think the frustrations are definitely real. I worry about the language of how those frustrations are expressed. I think that is also an important thing. But I also know that it's not easy, right, to manage and to process all of this. But I do, and I hear it in the listeners, that people are looking for tangible solutions, and I think that's the even harder aspect of this. So we'll see where that goes. The Action is saying that it'll speak to other parties that have a similar view. So obviously you've got your Patriotic Alliance there, and I think the ANC itself goes back and forth about what it wants. So it'll be interesting to see what this process births in the long run around the issue of tightening immigration laws.
Hollywood Bets is bringing you a bounty of prizes with Spina Zonke prize drops. Gear up to unravel an endless supply of treasures and claim fantastic riches with a chance to win an amazing share of 2.5 million rand in cash and prizes. All you have to do is bet 2 rand or more on selected pragmatic play games on Mondays, Tuesdays and Thursdays between 12:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Feel the ultimate thrill when you log in for a spin and bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
To live wealthier, you need to be able to grow your assets. At Standard Bank Private, you get a team of internationally acclaimed financial experts to advise you on local and global investment strategies. Plus, being with a leader in home loans, you can start expanding your property portfolio. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
This isn't just a walk, it's a journey through memory, through meaning. The 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns on Sunday, the 27th of July. Walk from the hallowed grounds of the Freedom Park to the stadium, to the southern lawns of the Union buildings, and some of our capital city's most iconic landmarks. Choose from 8 kilometers to 7.6 Ks in honor of Mandela Month, or even 4 kilometers for something lighter. Entry is 360 rands for adults and 200 rand for kids under 12. There's no parking at the start or end, so book your park and ride from Joburg or Pretoria when you enter. Sign up on primediaplus.com before the 26th of July or WhatsApp the word walk on 072 702 1702 and receive a link to enter. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Walk with meaning, walk with us.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. The National Prosecuting Authority has suffered a massive blow in the asbestos corruption trial. In a judgment delivered in a trial within a trial a short while ago, the court ruled that the extradition of Morwadi Cholota from the United States was unlawful and unconstitutional. Cholota, the ex-PA of Ace Magashule, filed a special plea to the court in April, putting the main trial on pause. She claims state prosecutors and Hawks investigators based their extradition on lies, intentionally misleading U.S. authorities. Cholota is among several people, including Magashule, accused of corruption in the multi-million rand asbestos tender. Judge Philip Losha says Cholota is now a free woman.
The extradition of accused 17 Mpumalanga Morwadi Cholota is unlawful. As such, this court is precluded from trying the offences she is charged with, as the unlawfulness of the extradition renders the jurisdiction of the South African Criminal Court void.
Staying in the courts, the EFF is back in the Western Cape High Court today, challenging Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana on the fuel levy increase. Last week, the party filed papers to block a fuel levy increase announced earlier during Godongwana's tabling of Budget 3.0. The party is arguing that Minister Godongwana was wrong in the process he followed to introduce the increase. Babalo Ndenze has more.
The EFF returns to the same court where it successfully fought the proposed VAT increase from the March 12 budget and fiscal framework, which was abandoned by Treasury and made an order of the court. The party is now fighting the fuel levy increase, which the party says is even more regressive than the VAT increase. In the first part of its application, the EFF wants the court to suspend the decision to increase the levy, which comes into effect tomorrow, pending Part B of its application. In Part B, the EFF wants the minister's decision set aside and also pay the party's costs. The EFF will tell the court that Godongwana must introduce a money bill which imposes a tax or levy which will trigger a Section 75 parliamentary process before the money bill can take legal effect. The party says the levy increase merely replaced the VAT increase and will affect the poor the most. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
Let's stay with budget-related matters. In Gauteng, Finance MEC Lebogang Maile will be presenting a revised provincial budget at this hour, making changes to the one he delivered in March. The adjustments come in response to the national budget recently tabled by the Finance Minister. The province says important amendments are needed to bring the budget in line with the national allocations. To this now, City Power will be restoring electricity supply to the River Park community in Alexandra today. The decision was taken after a meeting with community leaders as well as ward councillors. Last week, the entity disconnected the entire area after a violent confrontation with residents during a meter audit operation. City Power says once electricity is restored, teams will re-enter the area to conduct a full audit of meters. Spokesperson Isaac Mangina say they will disconnect households where meters are found to have been tampered with.
One of the conditions that we have given to the residents, strict conditions that we have given to the residents, that the City Power should enter the area without any disturbance or confrontation from the residents.
He says customers who were previously disconnected will be required to pay a fee as part of reconnection.
Customers who were previously disconnected will be required to pay 2,000 towards electricity purchases as part of the reconnection process. It is important to clarify that this amount is not a penalty as per the regulations or a reconnection fee, but rather a minimum charge.
And in the U.S., the White House has confirmed that President Donald Trump remains open to meeting with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts. This comes after the two sides failed to make headway towards a ceasefire to end an ongoing war. After talks in Istanbul, the Ukraine said Moscow had rejected its call for an unconditional ceasefire. It says Russia has instead offered a partial truce of 2 to 3 days in some areas of the front line. Delegations from both sides have now agreed to another large-scale prisoner exchange in their meeting, which was held in Istanbul. Gold is trading at $3,363.40 an ounce. The rand is at 17.86 to the dollar, 24.15 to the pound, 20.42 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $64.62 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Benrose, we've got a road closure along the M2 East that's due to that earlier accident. Officials are trying to clear the scene. Please try to find alternative routes or keep using the M2 West. While traveling on the N12 West, we've got delays between the Edenvale Road exit and the Kiludis interchange. There's also slow-moving traffic reported along the M1 South coming out of the Crown interchange.
The top story in EWN this hour, the Bloemfontein High Court has ruled that the extradition of Morwadi Cholota from the United States was unlawful and unconstitutional.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Ndlela month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first timers in 702's Walk the Talk. Tickets on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes past 11, the Clement Manyathela Show. We're through to the last and final hour, third and final hour of the show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. 2 features this hour, the world of work as well as the health and wellness feature. In the world of work, we'll look at why is it that young people aren't interested in climbing the corporate ladder. And in health and wellness, we'll discuss the importance of your thyroid. How about, though, that bulletin? Morwadi Cholota, Ace Makashula's former PA, that extradition, the NPA taking yet another knock, yet another loss. I think they seem to be surprised. I don't know how. They believe that they're going to regroup. Remember, Dr. Nandipha Makutumana is also challenging her deportation. She's failed at the Supreme Court of Appeals, but there was a minority judgment. That dissenting view is what they're going to lean on to try and challenge it in the Constitutional Court. I've already seen people weighing in saying that, she might actually win that one too. Very interesting times. Going to speak about the world of work. If you want to weigh in, please call us on whether or not the corporate ladder matters. If you're trying to climb it, 011-883-0702, 072 702 1702.
702.
World of Work.
Absolutely. It's the world of work. And we're looking at why is it that young people aren't seemingly climbing the corporate ladder. I'm joined by Anya van Beek, a talent and culture strategist, leadership and HR expert, and an executive coach. She has a long title. Anya, thank you so much for joining us. So, Anya, climbing the corporate ladder, I think there was a point where that was the goal. People used to dream big and work really hard to move up, to try and obtain and own the corner office. But you're saying young South Africans today, like millennials and Gen Zs, are seemingly rethinking this approach. We aren't seeing so many of them. I mean, I look around our own environments and we talk about how young people don't stick around. They job hop so much. So that seems to be a change of approach. You speak about managers as well who seem to be burnt out. So there's a lot to pick and prod at. Thank you so much for your time. Let's speak about the idea in and of itself of climbing the corporate ladder and why for the longest time that was a vision that spurred so many people on occupying that corner office, so to speak.
Yeah, good morning, Tshidi. Thank you for this warm welcome. And absolutely, you're absolutely right to say that we see a trend that the younger generations are not really keen to climb the corporate ladder. And I think when you ask the question about why might it has changed, I think it's really understanding what is important for individuals. So if that was a goal a few years ago, I think it might have been of the luxury of what it is bringing or what it can unlock or the possibilities that it opens up in your life. And what we're currently seeing is that the younger generations are questioning. I don't necessarily think we need to think that they lack ambition. I think it's more about what is the responsibilities and the burden that's accomplished with that title. And I think they might be asking themselves, is it worth the while? Now, to back that, what I'm saying, I think there's an interesting research study done by Gallup. Now, Gallup is a research organization, and annually they share the State of the Global Workplace report. And that's mainly a report that's interested in the engagement levels of individuals as well as managers. And what we have seen in the latest report is that the engagement levels is down by 2 points. It used to be 23% of the workforce that was actively engaged, and that has dropped to 21%. Now, you can imagine if you're a team of 100 or a company of 100 employees, it's such a scary statistic to think that only 21 people of the 100 is actively engaged. Now, why I'm highlighting that statistic is if you have a look at people that's engaged, the sad part was to see that the employee level, or what they sometimes call the individual contributor level, that engagement level was the same. It stayed the same. There was no increase or decrease. But when you look at the job level of managers, that's where we saw a decrease. And I think that's sending a message or highlighting, giving a spotlight onto managers that's struggling. And I'm thinking that might be one of the reasons why the younger generation say, but that's not what I want to sign up for. If I have a title, but it goes hand in hand with so much more pressure and less support from the organization, that's not what I want to sign up for.
Is there something that can be done to try and make that look appealing? I work as a manager, and I tend to leave my team in charge when I leave. I tend to give people responsibilities when I leave, and they actually have no appetite for it. They actually speak about that. Is there a way to try and change the way it's positioned? Because it doesn't feel to me as well that millennials find it attractive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you say what can be done, I think we first need to understand that when you look at the current role of managers, it almost seems as if they sandwich in between two layers. On the one side, they have the demands from the senior leadership and even the shareholders in the organization, and, that demands to take the strategy and make it happen, because that's what the managers are responsible for. And then on the other side, they have their teams that you need to look at the well-being of the teams. You need to make sure that they perform. And we do know that the demands of the world of work has changed. So the team members is also demanding more from their managers. So absolutely, we do need to look at how do you rethink the role of managers. And that can be different from each company or each industry. But I think the first thing that's highlighted here is that when we appoint people in a management role, how do we support them? How do we train them? And how do we coach them to be successful? Because I think you know yourself that there's so many disruptions in the workplace. The speed of change is so high. It's just getting faster and faster. If we look at, everything that's automated and AI coming into the picture, there's so much in demand. And I think that's why we need to look at how do we think of that role of middle manager.
I want to go back to the millennials and Gen Zs who are labeled job hoppers and being called not loyal. I think you've clearly cited that there's something else going on. I wonder if you could speak about the impact of an environment in terms of a lack of appeal. What I often also hear from young people is the compensation is simply not enough. Their value acknowledgement is also not enough, that they look for growth opportunities that might happen outside. Can you speak about the impact of the lack of growth, rather, in that perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Tshidi, what you've touched on is so important, because when we look at the younger generation, we know that they care deeply about impact. I'll get to that part of the growth just now, but when we look at them caring about the impact, is they want to know that the work that they do is meaningful. It's really understanding what is the contribution of the organization in their community or in the society that they're working, and knowing that the organization is not only focused on profit. So I think when we look at what is important for younger generations, it's really that autonomy, the flexibility, and as you highlighted, the growth for individuals. Now, when there's a manager or leader sitting listening to this talk, I think when we think of growth opportunities, a lot of the time people think we're talking about, take them away out of the office to go and attend some training program. And growth does not necessarily mean, go and attend a training program. That continuous growth is really being very intentional about how can we take ordinary day-to-day operations and moments and turn them into a growth opportunity. So there might be a challenge just asking the right questions to understand how they will find the solution. So it's almost putting on the hat of a coaching management style versus directing and telling them what to do. But it's also about having conversations and be transparent about what does flexible career path, what can that look like? And what other alternatives are there for them to explore? So even if you think of lateral moves or understanding what is important for that individual, what are they passionate about, and see if there's not an opportunity to join a project where they can actually grow and build on that passion or natural skill strength that they might have. So there's so many different things. I think it starts with having that human-centric focus and understanding who's the team member or that young individual sitting in front of you and what's important for them and how you can then support their growth.
All right. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to speak about all of this in the South African context where we have high unemployment and then you still have young people who feel restless in particular spaces. But let's take a quick break first.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
The book you wrote, My Father Died for This, which not only would have been a journey for you going over all the facts and details, brutal as they were, of these killings that took the life of your father and others. How do you feel about potentially hearing all of this detail again? Is there something cathartic about it, or should we be careful not to underestimate how painful it is as well?
Yes, we must, of course, be careful about how painful it is. I think the more we hear about this, the more we're able to talk about it, the better it is.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3,268. I love payday because my salary would look huge to 15-year-old me, but that's in 2011 money, not 2024 money. 28-year-old me is not so easily embraced.
Recently removed from the family payroll. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Foxfest deals are back. Get a free upgrade to the Polo Vivo Life when you buy a new Polo Vivo and pay 0% deposit. Get more features at no extra cost. Buy it now and only pay 3 months later. Offer valid only through Volkswagen Financial Services. Looking for something sportier? The stylish T-Cross is yours from just 399,900 Rand. These Foxfest deals won't last. Visit your nearest dealer today or visit vw.co.za.
Every small business owner knows that you gotta dream big to achieve even bigger. And Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 understands that it takes guts and determination to show up for your customers and expand your business and your bottom line. That's why we're looking for all the SMEs of Gauteng that dare to reinvent, expand, and shake things up. You could win 200,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package to help you chase your small business dreams. So, if you're a small business that dares to level up, enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za for Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
702.
World of Work.
We are having a conversation. We're in conversation with Anya van Beek, a talent and culture strategist, as well as a leadership and HR expert. She's also an executive coach. We're speaking about why is it that there seems to be a loss of appetite from young people to climb the corporate ladder. They say that it's on the wrong wall. She's also penned an interesting article, Anya van Beek, about this particular phenomenon, that it used to be a rite of passage and that you used to put in the hours, not at the right moments. One day you'd get the corner office, and that doesn't seem to be the aspiration any longer. I was asking earlier whether you are still interested in climbing the corporate ladder. Here's some of the voice notes. I'm going to come to Tabo and Midrand in just a bit.
Tshidi, I've been in one company for like 5 years now. This is the first time I actually stuck around for this long. 5 years awards, I got zero, nothing. Ne? So imagine if I stick around for like 20, 30 years to get what? 2,000. It doesn't make sense. And then the other things that each and every single year, your increase is like 1,000 something, but it's very small. And then if I move from company A to company C, then company C gives me like 5,000 more. So why not move around up until I can push my salary? So it doesn't make sense. So I get it.
Hi, Tshidi, it's Mbekezeli in Joburg. I think on this question about growth of opportunity and income within a company, why is it that companies that people work for don't realize their current, call it potential, so that they don't have to hop from one company to the next, so that the growth is almost as rapid or as good as it would be if you were in the same company instead of hopping from one company to the next? What is it about companies and businesses and managers that makes them not realize the growth and potential in people while they are still there, only for somebody else in a different organization to realize it, in a different organization, because that's one of the reasons for people to move from one place to another. It's Mbekezeli.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mbekezeli. Thank you for the WhatsApps. Before I go to Tabo and Midrand, Anya, I want you to maybe weigh in on that. I mean, they're both in essence raising the same issue. You need to move to get more, even in the financial incentives. You need to move to be seen, to grow. It happens a lot in the media industry where journalists believe you need to hop around to get your money's worth, your value, in essence. Why is that the fact?
Yeah, I think it's the reality that when you in an organization, and unfortunately, I mean, if we have a look at the inflation rate, and usually businesses link the increases not necessarily to the inflation rate, but it's definitely taken into account. So there's only that amount of money available to, give increases or give bonuses. And an easy way to increase your salaries, like the first caller said, is to go to another organization, because then I can negotiate a different salary or a different package. And that is so sad, because I think it's costing the organization a lot when someone moves and you need to go through that whole recruitment process again. So I think that is the unfortunate reality of what we're facing. I don't think necessarily in South Africa only. But then, as the other caller said, is that the responsibility of the leadership team is to build an environment where people want to stay. And that is sometimes creating an environment that's more than just the money that you get. Because, I mean, if we have a look as a manager, I cannot motivate you. Motivation is intrinsically for each and everyone different, but I can create an environment where people want to learn and want to contribute. But yeah, that might be the challenging part, is that people don't know. I'm saying people, but the leaders at the organization is not interested in building or unlocking the potential. But that is the secret. That is why people or organizations are so successful, when they appoint people and allow them to bring their strengths and their talents and unlock that to thrive.
I want to bring Tabo in from Midrand. Tabo, you have a recruitment agency, and you also wanted to weigh in on this trend of millennials, Gen Zs, not interested in waiting it out and climbing the corporate ladder, but moving elsewhere.
Yes, thank you for having me, taking my call. Look, in the 15 plus years I've been in the recruitment industry, I have seen that with the advent of BE, with affirmative action, there's a lot of instability when it comes to trying to have people become professionals or staying long enough to earn the skills that they probably would be able to contribute towards their next employer or their current employer. But there's also a very serious socio-economic issue that is not being spoken of. There's the AI that is not being spoken of that is extremely worrying, given that AI in the next, by 2030, there is going to be a serious displacement of skills, and a lot of skills are going to disappear, particularly white-collar positions. And as a result, those who do know what the future holds, people who have been following what AI has been, how the development of AI, actually understand this dilemma, and they do not want to find themselves wanting. So anyway, then there's the socio-economic issue whereby social media has not really done us justice in maintaining some of the things that we are so accustomed to. So with regards to people losing jobs and not being able to find jobs, a lot of people are starting to think that they can short the system by job hopping, and then most importantly, creating their own businesses. Because there's this pressure that you need to be flashy and have a nice car almost instantly. And it is those small issues that I actually think have just been ignored, given that we have a tsunami on the horizon.
All right, thank you so much, Tabo, in Midrand, warning of a tsunami. Anya, before you weigh in on that, I just want you to listen to this very, I think it's an important view about corporate culture in the country as well.
Tshidi, part of the issue with corporate South Africa is that what many people don't know is it's a very toxic environment. It's like a cappuccino, white on top, like a cappuccino, foamy, and then very dark at the bottom. And the top part doesn't care about the bottom. It's really about exploiting people as much as possible. And the workplace is extremely toxic. The day I decided to leave and pursue an international career was the best decision I ever made, because I was really being taken for granted in South Africa. And many leaders are so toxic. I don't even know how they got to those positions, because they have no idea how to lead, much less a country like South Africa.
Those are two very important sentiments. I have run out of time, Anya, but I want you to weigh in. Not even AI, we'll try to touch AI, but before that, the issue of the South African experience, the issue of inequality, the issues of purpose and mental well-being, and you gauge that versus the fact that we are a country with high unemployment, with the changing culture, and I suppose that's where AI fits into the conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I actually have to echo the words of the last caller, and talking about these toxic workplaces. Because if we have a look at the work environment where it's human-centric, then you will have conversations with your workers saying, you know what, these are the roles that might be absolute, as Tabu mentioned, in the next few years. These are the skills required, and as an organization, we invest to reskilling and upskilling our workforce, because we know they've been loyal. We know they stick with us for quite some time. So I think it's that whole question of, as a leadership, do you really invest in the skills building for the future? When you consider what roles might be impacted when we think of AI. And then on the other side is to take ownership of the culture. And I mean, if people talk about the culture in a toxic culture, I mean, that is so sad, but I think that's the reality is that some leaders are just focused on the profit, and they're not focused on the individual and what is important to them. And I think that is where the conversation needs to start. Even Tabu mentioned the example of they just want the flashy cars. And it is as a mentor or as a coach in the business. It might be the manager, just having that conversation with a younger generation and see, but what is realistic? I mean, these dreams that you have, excellent, but what is a realistic achievement or expectation from your side? So I think for me, looking at this issue, it really starts with having the right conversation, having respect for each and everyone, because I mean, that is the beauty of South Africa, because we have such a diverse workforce and together making it work. Because otherwise, as Tabu said, that tsunami of AI, we will be caught off guard.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's Anya van Beek, a leadership and HR expert, weighing in there on why young people are opting to not climb the corporate ladder. I'm a little bit late. Touch at 1:30. Mike Mlapo's got your headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. We begin with news just in from KwaZulu-Natal. The Pietermaritzburg High Court has dismissed French arms steel company Thales and former President Jacob Zuma's application to be acquitted from all charges in the arms steel corruption case. In April, Thales argued in the application there will not be a guaranteed a fair trial after the deaths of two of its key witnesses. Zuma also joined in the application with the hopes that the arms steel company's application would be successful. Both Zuma and Thales face charges of corruption, racketeering, money laundering and fraud, all linked to the multi-billion rand 1999 arms deal. The Gauteng government has revised its budget, increasing its total projected revenue to 172 billion rand for the current financial year. In the previous fiscal period, the province underspent by 1.8 billion rand. Following public outcry, a portion of these unspent funds has been rolled over into the current financial year. Finance MEC Lebogang has retabled the budget today to reflect these adjustments to the province's annual financial plan. And the life of actor Presley Tshweni will be celebrated by friends and family at the Mmabatho Convention Centre today. A memorial service is being held for the thespian in his hometown a week after his passing. Tshweni died last week of what his family confirmed was a respiratory issue. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling in the Killarney area, we've got heavy traffic volumes between Empire Road and the Killarney Bends. This is due to a major accident scene. The M1 South was also backed up as a result of onlookers. There's also queuing traffic along the N12 West between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange while traveling on the M1 South. A slight backup coming out of the Crown interchange while in Mayfair. We're seeing delays along several routes within the area. Crownwood Road, Park Drive, as well as Main Reef Road, heavily backed up in and out of the Crown City area. Traveling in the Chartwell area, delays along the N14 South just as you approach the R512. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care. We'll have more updates coming up.
There's more EWN on air, online and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Every 5 hours, a child disappears somewhere in South Africa.
If we really look at the numbers today, I think it is far worse because so many cases are actually going unreported. So there's various reasons why trafficking happens. Children going missing in our country is a crisis. We as a community need to stand up and be more vigilant. Contact us at Missing Children South Africa. We will get someone to assist.
Bianca van Aswegen.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
To live wealthier, you need to be able to grow your assets. At Standard Bank Private, you get a team of internationally acclaimed financial experts to advise you on local and global investment strategies. Plus, being with a leader in home loans, you can start expanding your property portfolio. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Choose Checkers, SA's #1 in value supermarket, and save on deals like Rainbow Simply Chicken Steaklets, 400 grams, any 2 for 99 rand. Parmalat cheddar or Gouda cheese, 850 grams, any for 119.99. And Twin Saver 2-ply white toilet rolls, 24 per pack, for 159.99. Valid until this Sunday at Checkers, Checkers Hyper, or shop on 6060.
Andries is all in when it comes to Audis, while Mark is your Mercedes-Benz man. Figile is a Ford fanatic, and Isaac is incontestably the Isuzu guru. JP will find you your perfect GAC, and to Oscar, there's only one car, the Jaguar. You see, our people know their stuff, and we know our people. We know that without them, there are no happy customers. There are no sales, no service. Our people are our passion, because they know people like you. Bidvest McCarthy, our people deliver, always.
The time to honor our past and step into a shared future as a team is here. Corporate hospitality and team entries for this year's 702 Walk the Talk are now open. Bring your colleagues together on Sunday, 27 July, to walk through the historic Freedom Park heritage site, past national landmarks, and finish at the Union buildings. To book hospitality, email hospitality@raceoffice.co.za. For corporate entries, visit primediaplus.com. Entries close Friday, 18 July. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park Heritage Site in the city of Tshwane, where footsteps become footprints.
702
Health and Wellness.
That's right. It's time for the health and wellness feature. So today we're speaking about the importance of your thyroid. What do you know about the thyroid? Have you ever heard about it? Have you had it checked at all? Do you know the importance of your thyroid? That's the conversation we are having now. Of course, we're joined now on the line by Dr. Eustace Affelstat. I hope I said that right. A specialist surgeon interested in thyroid management. Dr. Eustace, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Radio 702.
Thank you, Tshidi, for having me, and good morning, listeners.
Yes. Is it Affelstat? I said it correctly, right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
That's right.
Thank you so much. So we don't know much. I think people generally don't speak about the thyroid when they speak of the anatomy. Let's speak about what its role is. What is the importance of a thyroid? What does it do on a day-to-day basis?
The thyroid is a small organ that sits in the neck, and it's actually much more important than its small size would suggest, because it is responsible for arranging metabolism in the entire body. So this ranges from diverse functions, like, for example, to ensure that your heart beats at the proper speed and with the proper power, to, for example, that you have normal fertility. When the thyroid function is deranged, your fertility does not work, to something like also bones, where the turnover of the bones is increased, and you will get bone weakness if there's a functional abnormality of the thyroid gland. Furthermore, brain function is also regulated by the thyroid, in as much as if you have to lower function of the thyroid gland, then your mentation will be slow and sluggish, and you will not be able to think fast, whereas conversely, if the thyroid works too much, then you become psychotic.
I want to flag very quickly the reason why this is such an important conversation, of course. Not only was it International Thyroid Awareness Week last week, the 25th to the 31st of May, but it's also something that doesn't seem to be diagnosed or treated properly. There's, I think, 1 in 8 women apparently develop a thyroid disorder. So not a lot of people understand how common it is. 1.6 billion people worldwide being at risk. Talking about who's at risk, how do you figure somebody's at risk of thyroid disorder? Who is at risk? How do we profile that person?
Most of the patients, or most human beings, have actually got a normal thyroid function, as you pointed out. It's only we medical doctors become only involved if there is either a functional abnormality, the thyroid works too little or too much, or if there's an anatomical abnormality, means a nodule in the thyroid gland and it obstructs the airway, or there's cancer in the thyroid gland. The functional abnormalities should be picked up by any general practitioner, and to measure thyroid function test is actually a very simple blood test. And this test should not be used as a screening test, except in newborns, but only if there are symptoms. If you feel sluggish, loss of energy on the one hand, or, for example, if your heartbeat becomes irregular, then a thyroid function test belongs to the basic workup, and that will identify functional problems. Obviously, when you have a nodule in the thyroid gland these days, it's often picked up accidentally at imaging for other reasons. Let's say, for example, the CT scan or similar, or the patient in the old-fashioned way feels a lump in her neck or sees a lump in her neck in the mirror, or acquaintances tell her, listen, what have you got there in the neck?
Why is it that it seems to go unnoticed by a lot of people? People don't suspect. I don't hear a lot of people who generally suspect that they have a thyroid problem. Why do you think that it's one of those things that gets overlooked, unseen? I mean, you just said now that at times it gets picked up even by mistake when somebody else is testing and looking for something else.
Yeah, the functional abnormalities, due to the fact that people don't think about it, as you said, that they don't get the test, and that's actually a very simple test, and it's a cheap test. So I cannot answer this question why people do not go more clearly for it if they've got a disturbance like that. It is your function, my function, by talking here, that we alert the people to that, and that they've got a better understanding on the importance of thyroid function. On the second item, that lumps or nodules in the thyroid gland are often picked up at imaging for other reasons, that is actually not that much of a problem. It merely speaks to the fact that these days an awful lot of people get evaluated by imaging examinations for other reasons, and a nodule in the thyroid is found. One should also mention here that the vast majority of nodules in the thyroid gland are actually benign and of no further consequence, and a variation of normal. For example, in women, we know that every decade of life, about 10% of women will develop new nodules in the thyroid gland, and most of these go unnoticed. Like I said, sometimes they're an accidental finding elsewhere, but there's no reason to panic if you find one. Just have it looked after, and the workup has been very well defined to exclude thyroid cancer, which is quite rare. Most of these are what we call colloid nodules, and it's a storage medium. In men, thyroid nodules are much rarer. It's only half about the number of in women, but they also do occur, and in about half of men that reach the ripe old age of 90 years, you can find thyroid nodules. So a nodule per se is not a sign of something sinister developing there. It merely is a sign that one should have a look at it, and if so indicated, institute further workup.
You spoke about the risk in women. Why does it feel that women are more at risk, and at what age should we be looking at? Is there a specific age in women that we should be more heightened to worrying about?
I think you should not much about it if it's an accidental finding. Generally, because nodules in the thyroid gland are so common. If I take, for example, a 20-year-old woman off the street and hold an ultrasound probe in the neck, I will find in 20 out of 100 women, I'll find nodules in the thyroid gland that are of no consequence. If I take a 60-year-old woman, there will be 60 out of the 100 will have nodules. So it's a variation of normal. What we have to figure out is when are these nodules suspicious, and generally we do not, because they are so common, we do not react on nodules that are less than 1 centimeter in diameter because they are so common. Because then we must rule out, if we find something that's bigger than 1 centimeter, we must rule out the presence of thyroid cancer. This can be also quite simply be done with a fine needle aspiration under ultrasonic guidance. And to us specialists, not that much of a problem for us is much more the problem that, as we mentioned earlier, accidentally a nodule is found and the patient is told she's got cancer, and then we must convince the patient that she doesn't have cancer. Now, why women get more nodules than men is currently not known, and it is a fact. And that I can't explain.
All right, doctor. I'm going to ask you to hold on for a little bit. I want to take a break. And in Santon, when I come back, you can put your questions to Dr. Athelsted in just a bit. Let's just take a quick break first.
Smart Steve from Momentum. Hello.
Hey, Smart Steve. Amir here. Listen, man, I got a problem, right?
Okay.
My little princess is turning 18, and now she's got a license and a boyfriend. And you know what these roads and young boys are like at night. Y'all check.
So you're worried about her safety. Just add it to the Momentum app so she can access help 24/7 with Momentum's safety alert.
Is that the emergency response version of curry in a hurry? Listen, man, Steve. Does my Momentum car insurance give me that?
For sure. Once she's added, she can get help at the touch of a button, no matter whose car she's in.
Free? Mahala for all that and all?
Yes, for free. Your peace of mind and her safety at no cost.
Oh, Steve, one last thing. Does it come with a boyfriend ejector seat?
Not yet, but I'll mention it to the team. Visit momentum.co.za to get a quote. Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Momentum Insure is an authorized non-life insurer and FSP. Standard SMS rates and T's and C's apply. FSP 22789.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
702.
Health and wellness.
It is the Health and Wellness feature. We are in conversation with Dr. Eustace Athelsted. We are speaking, of course, about thyroid health. Dr. Eustace Athelsted is a specialist surgeon who focuses on thyroid management. Doctor, there are a couple of calls. A couple of people want to put questions to you to get your thoughts. I'll bring in Anne from Santon. Anne, good morning.
Good morning. I would like to ask Doctor, what tests are the most important blood tests for your thyroid if you are on Thyrox? Should you do the TSH, the T3, T4, reverse T3 antibodies, all of them? And what are the correct levels for each one, please?
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Eustace?
That is a loaded question. Now, quite generally, when thyroid supplementation, thyroid hormone supplementation, either by Altroxin or Euthyrox, which are the most common medications used in South Africa, is needed, it is due to the fact that the thyroid has been has had an inflammation which destroyed part of the thyroid tissue, and then we supplement. The other time it may be needed is when patients have had thyroid surgery or radioactive iodine for treatment of hyperthyroidism or even for cancer. Now, if you don't have cancer and really have had a thyroiditis that left the thyroid gland disabled, it is number one very important, and many people don't know that the Altroxin or Euthyrox is taken properly. And it must be taken upon an empty stomach, and you cannot have anything to eat or to drink within 1 hour, because the natural thyroid hormone, which we call T4, is actually very sensitive to other things that you eat. And if you have, for example, your thyroid medication with a cup of coffee where there's a little bit of milk in there, nothing of this will be absorbed. Now we come to your actual question. The simplest measurement is TSH. And TSH is a very slow feedback mechanism that indicates whether you have enough thyroid hormone. We use TSH measurements after adjustment of the thyroid hormone levels or supplementation levels only every 3 months until stable, and then we measure only once a year. It is that slow a feedback mechanism. You should also measure T4 in it to get an idea where you're going, whether there's a discrepancy between the one and the other. For example, that the T4 is normal and the TSH is too low, then we know that your supplementation is a little bit too high, and we can adjust it, or we should adjust it by a minimum amount. The normal values that you asked me about differ slightly from lab to lab, and so you must be careful. Also, they differ, for example, for pregnant women than for normal non-pregnant women. So it's a little bit tricky, and you've got to understand it properly, and above all, you've got to take the thyroid supplementation in the right way. Because what I find is many people are not taking it in the right way, and then the levels fluctuate enormously.
Doctor, another message coming through on the WhatsApp line. Can you ask the guest what tips should be utilized for thyroid health? Can you weigh in on that one? And I think this is for anybody really who is worried about lifestyle changes that they should also consider.
Generally, the thyroid, because it's so very important, the thyroid is actually very stable during your lifetime. It will adapt to challenges, for example, of adolescence, of pregnancy in women, and then to your general decline. Once things are getting out of kilter, for example, that you're losing hair and you feel slow and you gain an awful lot of weight, and your heartbeat becomes very slow and you can't exercise anymore, then, like I said, in the workup, a minimum is a thyroid function test. Conversely, if you have palpitations, periods of very fast heartbeat, if you're losing weight, even despite eating a lot and having a healthy appetite, then I think a thyroid function test should be a basic in the workup. Now, if you have a lump in the neck that is visible, then you should have it checked out. That's the other part of it, the anatomical problems of the thyroid gland, because it may signify the presence of thyroid cancer. Like I mentioned, most lumps are benign and require no further treatment, but you want to filter out the few cases of thyroid cancer because they can be treated effectively and in most cases actually curable.
All right. I want you to listen to a couple of voice notes that have also come our way. Please take a listen to some of the questions from our listeners.
Morning, Tshidi and the doctor. Thank you guys for a nice show and a topic. I just want to ask, is it... So I'm Kikifilo Mojapila, I'm Kifilo, and I had hyperthyroidism, but I had a surgery and then it was removed. So I just wanted to hear my thyroid was removed and so that surgery. So can it come back? Number one. Number two, does this now after the operation, does it mean my metabolism is back to normal? Or unfortunately, anything can happen anytime once you were exposed or once you tested positive on hyperthyroidism? I'll listen on the radio. I'm saying this because sometimes with maintaining a certain body weight, you're unable to, because I'm not gaining, I'm just okay. You know, I'm a 54, 55, 56. The largest that I can gain is 59, even when I'm pregnant. So coming back, the weight sheds off faster even after pregnancy. So I just wanted to ask, does it take an extra effort for a person like me to gain weight? And what would that look like? Or what happens once it's removed? Does it mean I'm okay? Everything after the removal, it means maybe that's how my body is. Thank you so much.
Hi, Tshidi. This question is to the doctor. My daughter is 25 and is on thyroid medication, and she has developed absence of menstruation. Is this the effect of the thyroid being not well controlled? What could this be meaning? Thank you.
All right, doctor. I think you heard both those takes. Your views on those questions?
Okay. The last one first, because it's the simplest to answer. If in a 25-year-old female you have no menstruations, you must exclude pregnancy first. Then obviously also in rare cases there can be a thyroid function disturbance that For example, if the daughter is hypothyroid, that means the thyroid produces too little hormone, then the menstruations will become irregular and cease. Likewise, with too much thyroid hormone, the menstrual periods can become irregular. All right, so have the thyroid function checked, and that should give you an idea where you're standing. Then the first question was actually a rather complex question. Generally, we don't like to do surgery for thyroid function abnormalities, only if radioactive iodine, which is the main treatment for thyroid hyperthyroidism, that means when the thyroid works too much, when radioactive iodine is not working or there are other reasons not to give it, then we do thyroid surgery. It obviously depends on the extent of the thyroid surgery, that whether the hyperthyroidism has a chance to come back. In previous times, many surgeons thought that they could decrease the size of the thyroid clinically by simply operating and taking out as much as they estimated would be needed to get the thyroid function normal. But this has been shown to be a very cumbersome and risky and expensive way of treating hyperthyroidism. So we prefer not to do this. The standard method is radioactive iodine, and the aim here is to come into a state of permanent hypothyroidism, that the thyroid gland does not work anymore, because that makes the supplementation with thyroid hormone via pills actually much easier. Like with the surgery, radioactive iodine was tried to calibrate it to, as much as needed to end up with the normal thyroid function, but that has proved to be, just like with the surgery, an illusion. You cannot achieve that.
All right.
So it's actually easier to give a relatively large dose of radioactive iodine, and with it destroy the hyperactive thyroid gland, and then give pills afterwards. That makes things much easier.
All right, doctor. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave it on that note. Thank you so much. That's Dr. Eustace Affelstead speaking to us, of course, about thyroid health. Dr. Eustace is a specialist surgeon with an interest in thyroid management.
It took time to create the life you've built. Every milestone, every moment, you've earned it. Indra takes the time to understand what's priceless to you, tailoring insurance to match a life of distinction. True peace of mind comes from knowing that everything you've worked for is insured with precision. It starts with a conversation. It starts with helloindra.co.za. Indra Risk Services is an authorized financial services provider.
Time to get avolicious, because they're just so nutritious. From delectable toast to fab salads, everybody loves Avos because they're super versatile. Plus, they're high in heart-healthy fats, vitamin K, and biotin, free from cholesterol and sodium, and can form part of a successful energy-controlled diet for weight management. And remember, green skin Avos remain green, while dark skin Avos turn purple-black when ripe. For avolicious recipes and more info about the South African Avocado Growers Association, visit avocado.co.za.
Kickstart your small business with a starter bundle from Nedbank. Enjoy free transactions for 6 months, including free cash deposits and withdrawals, and a free debit card with easy digital access and a dedicated banker to guide you along every step of the way. Open a Nedbank starter bundle with SA's best bank for SMEs. Apply on the Money app today. Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Coming up
On the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Good afternoon, Mandy. Mandy's going to be on the other side of 12 o'clock with the midday reports. Coming up on the show?
Hey, Tshidi, very bad news, good news for the NPA. A blow for them. The court in the Free State has ruled that Ace Makashula's assistant's extradition from the US was unlawful. Make or break case there for the NPA. But in Pietermaritzburg, the court there has ruled against Zuma and arms company Thales in that application for an acquittal. So that case will continue. The EFF is arguing in court against the fuel levy increase. We're also seeing budgets being redelivered in Gauteng and the Western Cape today because of the redelivering of the national budget. And then growth tiny for the GDP. South Africa's economy grew by 0.1% in the first quarter of the year.
Oh, a mixed bag indeed. Thank you so much, Mandy. We'll be with you on the other side of the news bulletin. On my end, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Here is your Eyewitness News update.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Malapo. We start with news just in. South Africa's economy grew by a marginal 0.1% in the first 3 months of the year, following an increase of 0.4% in the fourth quarter of 2024. This is in line with market expectations, starting the year off slow. Despite growth in agriculture, transport and finance, a continued strain on the mining and manufacturing industries continued to drag on growth. Stats SA released the latest GDP figures a short while ago. Here's Statistician General Risenga Maluleke.
We are saying that our economy expanded by 0.1% in the first quarter of 2025. I was listening to commentaries from last night from economists from different areas, and they were saying that it might stay at a zero. Some say it might go into the negative. Some said it might go slightly higher. So there it is sitting at 0.1%, and the year-on-year is sitting at 0.8%.
We move to court developments from KwaZulu-Natal, where former President Jacob Zuma has lost his bid to have charges related to the controversial arms deal filed against him dropped. The Pietermaritzburg High Court has today dismissed an application brought by French arms company Thales and Zuma to be acquitted of the criminal charges. Thales filed the application a month ago, arguing that since 2 of its key witnesses have died, it would not be guaranteed a fair trial. Zuma joined Thales in its bid to have the charges dropped. Nhlamulo has more.
The Pietermaritzburg High Court has found that former President Jacob Zuma and French arms deal company Thales do have a case to answer to. They face charges of corruption, fraud, racketeering and money laundering linked to the 1999 arms deal. Judge Nkosinathi Chili delivered his judgment earlier today.
There is no justification for the grant of the order sought by Mr. Zuma in the